Nothing the screen has ever shown before can surpass the thrills of Ghidrah, the three-headed monster. Created from an atomic fireball hurled from outer space, Ghidrah, the three-headed monster, threatens man's very existence on Earth. Ghidrah, the three-headed monster, battles Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan for mastery of the world. Men quake before the terror of their unleashed fury. All new, all never to be forgotten. A new high in screen terror.
Welcome, everybody, to our supplemental episode talking about the Joker to Godzilla's Batman, essentially, Ghidrah, the three-headed monster, or Ghidorah, or Ghidorah, or whatever you want to say. I, of course, am Kyle. I'm here for with my co-hosts here and our producer Jonathan, who often hops on with us because we love chatting with him as well. And we're going to talk about all sorts of awesome things related to the three-headed titan of terror from outer space. And Leslie has provided us with some incredibly awesome questions. We're going to be showcasing some photos that were from the King Ghidorah week that we did in our Facebook group, Collectible Monsters, Monster Collectors. So awesome. And I have a ton of photos just to share as well. Plus, like I said, Leslie's got all these questions, and there's a whole bunch of like top 3 yada yadas regarding King Ghidrah. So we're going to definitely get into it. We got 19 people tuning in right now. Thanks for being here on an off week. Very, very well done. We'll let's do a chat room check-in in a little while. See if any more people show up. And but hello to everybody who's already here. Good to see some familiar names / faces already. And I think let's just real quick go around the room before we get into the questions and just like give us a little bit of background about your history with King Ghidrah. Leslie, where did you first encounter King Ghidrah? Which movie was your first?
Oh man. Again, welcome everybody to another awesome supplemental video on Collectible Monsters. And yeah, I've been planning this thing for a while because as you see pretty much every month, I have a thing for King Ghidrah. right there, you know. Point blank, he is my favorite villain. You heard that many times before. He's my favorite Godzilla villain of all time. All due respect to Mecha Godzilla, all due respect to Ghidrah, all due respect to Biollante, Destroyer, blah, blah, blah. But it's the three-headed space dragon that will always be my GOAT when it comes to villains of Godzilla. And like what Kyle said, he is like the Joker to Godzilla's Batman, or the Green Goblin to, you know, the Spider-Man, or Lex Luthor to Superman, you know? And it's like their Godzilla and King Ghidorah is like, even though there have been times where I know people are sick to death of King Ghidorah being used, but it's like their fates, like they always come together at some point, you know? And I love it. But my first interaction with King Ghidorah to maybe fall in love with him as a monster was ironically, his debut film, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. At that point, I was aware of Godzilla, and to see a monster so powerful that even Godzilla himself couldn't take him on by himself. You know what I'm saying? That spoke volumes to me, but I get more into why I love this monster more as we go through the show. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, y'all being here. So who's next? David, what about you? What was your first exposure to this awesome three-headed space kaiju?
Oh, I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, you do. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And thank you for spending part of your Thanksgiving weekend with us. You know, we're stoked to have everybody join us with this chat and you know, answer along in the chat with for Leslie's awesome questions that he will be asking us all. So I guess I know my very first sighting of King Ghidrah was actually in Monster Zero. And it was also the first time that I saw Godzilla and Rodan. I saw all of them at the same time. So I saw all three, the big three, as I call them. And, you know, we were joking around and talking about the pronunciation of the name. But I guess the reason that it stuck for me, Ghidrah, or in Japanese, Ghidorah, is because the controller from Planet X, the first time I heard the name, was when he said, "Yes, indeed. On Earth, you gave this terrifying monster the name of Ghidorah. Ghidorah. Everything is numbered here. The monster is 0." So that's the first time I heard the name, and it stuck, and it's never went away. Yeah, I watched the clip, Kyle, right before, so I could make sure I'm saying it correctly. And, you know, there is a yes, indeed in there, too, because he answers, Nick Adams says, "King Ghidrah." You know, and but anyway, first time I saw Ghidrah was Monster Zero, and again, that's why that movie is always like definitely in the top 5, 1 or 2. It kind of, you know, right around the same level for me as Mothra versus Godzilla and the original 54. So yeah, that's my first impression. And just like Leslie, we have a lot in common. We have some things not in common, but we have more in common than we have not in common. My very favorite Toho villain against Godzilla. And, you know, we're going to get into, you know, he's definitely looks better in certain films than others. And, you know, we'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, that's my answer, Jonathan. What time you laid eyes on the three-headed golden dragon from outer space?
Well, first of all, what's up, everybody? Thank you for being with us on this Thanksgiving weekend. Hope we all had a very nice Thanksgiving, as David pointed out. My first introduction was essentially the very first time I was introduced to Godzilla. So that's why King Ghidrah is special for me. I first saw King Ghidrah in Destroy All Monsters. So my uncle, one time, he was like, hey, he thought I was old enough, like 5 years old or so. He gave me this recorded VHS tape. And it just said "Destroy All Monsters" in Sharpie on it. And he said, "Watch this and tell me what you think afterwards." So I watched it, and I didn't want to put it away. I wanted to keep playing it over and over and over again. And I saw all these giant mutated monsters and creatures and dinosaurs. I was like, "What is this? It's amazing!" And then to see King Ghidrah come up, the three-headed dragon, I was just like absolutely blown away. And I was like, "Is this monster in more movies? I got to see them." So my uncle was like, "You know, let me show you all those." And so that was like my first introduction, probably. And the most disappointing thing for me when I was a kid is that for Halloween, my mom was able to make me a like pseudo Godzilla suit, but I always wanted a King Ghidorah suit. And my mom was like, "Honey, I love you, but there's no way I can make this thing. I just can't do it. I'm sorry." And I was like, when I was a kid, you know, you don't understand. You're like, "Oh, well, you know, whatever." But now I get it. But, you know, the first time I ever heard that, you know, that really weird cackling, you know, it scared me. You know, it definitely creeped me out, but it intrigued me as well. So that was my first experience with the Golden Dragon himself. Kyle, what say you?
You know, I asked this question to you guys, and then I realized I don't remember exactly the first Ghidorah movie that I saw.
Yeah.
My enjoyment of the Godzilla films was so sporadic and through VHS tapes, and not broadcast ever on TV where I was at least aware of it. So I have to say that it actually, as embarrassing as this might be for Ghidrah himself, it might have been in Gigan, because that was definitely one of the first VHS tapes that I ever had. And then, you know, of course, many other viewings with other movies and other Ghidrah appearances after that. But yeah, like Ghidrah, actually I've gone on record saying like Ghidrah is not one of my favorite monsters, but his importance in the Godzilla universe cannot be understated. And
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I even brought out the old Ghidrah hardcore chocolate shirt today. Oh yeah, David's got his that's David's photo of
That's
all the
my
X-Plus
photo that I made
figures.
into a t-shirt for G-Fest 2015. And I didn't think I had it anymore, and I found it. It's a little tight, but you know, what can I say? It's the day after Thanksgiving, 2 days after Thanksgiving. I was going to wear it come hell or high water, whether it's tight or not. I don't even care. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, so anyway, I think it might have been Gigan, but as everybody knows, one of my favorite movies ever is Monster Zero. And I think that's my favorite sort of overall Ghidrah, which we'll get into that stuff. We'll get into that stuff soon. But yeah, Ghidrah, man, what a legacy, to use a term that Leslie threw out to us in one of his questions. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. Let's do the chat room check-in now. Are you cool with that? You guys good with that?
Let's do it.
Do it.
All right. So right now we got 24 people watching.
What's up?
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Jonathan, you want to man the chat clicking, and Leslie, you want to read people off?
Yeah, let's fly through it. All right. Johnny Coke, what's going on? Michael Hang, Hail May. What's up? Are you in Japan? Because I don't trust you. I really don't.
he'll be back soon enough.
Yeah,
he and I have an arrangement of some sorts.
Yeah, probably on Monday, knowing him. Larry Latham, of course, Frank, Greg Coggin, Nathaniel Plummer, Ray 2D2, Tim Bartos, Eddie Ruan, Space Beast. Let's see who else. Kaiju Battle. What's up, Michael?
What's up, Mike?
And that's who I see so far. And right now we got 25 people. So again, thank y'all so much. Because again, we kind of jumping the gun because Ghidrah really doesn't really turn 60 until December 20th. That's when the movie came out. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster came out in December 20th in 1964. So we kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but at the same time, it's King Ghidrah. So you got to just get over it. You know what I'm saying? Because we love this monster that much. So with that being said, let's go with the questions. And since I'm asking the questions, I guess let's just go in this order we have right here. Let's start with Jonathan, then David, then Kyle, and I'll bring it up on the rear. All right? Okay, here we go. And again, everybody in the chat, if you hear the question, you're more than welcome to type in your answers in the chat as well to make it more interactive, because that's what we do around here. You know what I'm saying? And be brutally honest. That's all I ask. Like, don't worry about what people are going to think about you, because at the end of the day, your opinion is your opinion. All right? Don't be ashamed of that. Because I know
Debatable.
there's going to be some hot takes during the course of this show.
I'm sure of that.
It's coming, and I can't wait for it, honestly.
So gravity beam weight of a hot take. Yeah.
So with that being said, because again, I was feeling some type of way when Kyle was talking about, my first introduction was with Ghidrah and Guy again. I'm sitting there like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, don't start that. We're not starting that. We're not picking on that Ghidorah. I'll defend that bastard.
Hey, that Ghidrah leave that Ghidrah alone, okay? He's going through some rough times. He's going through some rough times.
No. He's seen
had a little too much to drink, you know.
He's better days, man.
He's having his John Wayne moment, you know.
But wait a minute, it doesn't really matter because Ghidrah has so many different appearances in there because of all that damn stock footage. So if you don't like that Ghidrah, there's another one coming right around the corner.
In just 5 minutes, right?
That's true.
Yeah. But for some reason,
Seattle, you don't like the weather. Wait 5 minutes.
But for some reason, the 72 Ghidorah gets picked on like the redheaded stepchild at the playground. But we're not doing that here. I'm sorry, we are not doing that here. But with that being said, what are your top 3 favorite King Ghidorah designs? Jonathan, go.
Okay. So they're going to go basically in order for me. Not surprising, I'm going to choose the OG himself, the Showa King Ghidrah, when he first appears in Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster. That is my favorite one. It's the first one I saw. Usually the first one I see that's the thing I'm going to gravitate to when I think of the most. Just I love the classic, dragon design, but it's also got this, it's a Japanese sort of design, but it's also got we got the hair on the sides, but then the choice of all gold you know, when it originally was a different color. It's really cool. It's interesting. I love the whole idea of Ghidrah imposing that design. It's got a quirky, goofy look, but also very scary at the same time to me. And the bobbling heads like that, it's like a spider moving for me. It just drives me nuts. My second favorite design, and this one might surprise some people because I don't talk about this movie enough, and I'm not a big fan of this movie per se, but I think it is one of the strongest designs in the history of the King Ghidrah lore, is the Grand King Ghidrah from, I believe, Rebirth of Mothra 3. That one, to me, takes the best of both, right? To me, they decided, let's take the Showa design. Let's go back a little bit to the Showa design, but we're going to still keep that sort of Heisei sort of build look. And so you get kind of a combination of two. And I love that. Yes. Look, I just love the face. I love the design, like the edgier designs. Like, look at that. Like, that is just so cool to me. He's like super angry. Probably one of the most angriest Ghidrahs we've ever seen, honestly. And to me, most design worthy in terms of the more modern era Ghidrahs. I just love all the details, everything about it. And so then my third favorite, we're going to go back in time a little bit, has to be the Heisei King Ghidrah from 1991. That one is my third favorite. I love the edginess of it. I love how they kind of got I love how they went away from what made Ghidrah iconic, and they decided to just stick with the base look, but they decided to take the hair away. We got all these edgy thorns and the horns on the side. A sleeker Ghidrah, you know, way bigger, clearly way bigger. Not as mobile, you know, not as mobile, more of a beam spammer in the films, and I just love the way this Ghidrah moves, especially that scene in particular when he's, you know, going over and just destroying everything, and you see that middle head just going crazy by itself. It's like enjoying it. It's like enjoying the moment. It's giving that little personality. And I love the behind the scenes of all the poor guys that are just pulling this thing along. Like, my goodness, what a feat that was to pull off. But yeah, those would be my top three. Just love Ghidrah regardless, but those three stick out to me the most.
All right.
Go for it, David.
David.
All right. So I'm going to just pretty much echo what Jonathan said, believe it or not. I mean, number one, of course, is the original Showa design. I think he was executed best in Monster Zero, but it's essentially the same suit from 64 to 65. It's kind of the same suit, a little bit of tweaks here and there. I love that design. That's my number one. And then I can also group the 68 suit in there with that one because it's similar. The wings are much smaller. It's a smaller suit. The heads are more, they can articulate the heads better. So all of those three, the classic Showa Ghidrah design are probably my favorites. And then Jonathan, just like you, I got to go with, yeah. I mean, the necks are a little bit shorter in that one too. So number two, I'm going to have to go with Grand King Ghidrah 2, also from Mothra 3. Like Jonathan, I don't love the movie. I don't love the score, but I love the design of King Ghidrah. It's sort of a hybrid between the Showa and the Heisei. That's the way I kind of see it. And it's just a beautiful design. And I wish we would have seen more of this monster in other films that maybe did include Godzilla and Rodan or something like that. But I really did respond to the actual design of this. KOC released a beautiful resin kit of this monster that I would love to tackle at some point in my modeling career. But I love the horns. The horns are just fantastic.
Those wings are massive.
And the wings are massive, and it's the proportions are just really, really appealing to me. And then finally, I'm gonna have to agree with Jonathan again. We're simpatico, the Heisei King Ghidrah, and not so much the design. The design is good, it works, but just the impact of seeing King Ghidrah again in a Heisei film with Ifukube's score, right alongside of the monster, that to me was super, super exciting. And I think, could it have been executed a little bit better? Yeah, in some scenes, absolutely. But I appreciate it for what it was. And like I said, I was so excited to see that monster again realized in the Heisei series. And that doesn't mean that I like the Dorats and I don't like the origin story. I really don't care for that. I love the story in general of the 91 film, but that portion of the story, I'm not really, feeling that portion of the story too much. But yeah, it's great. And then of course, Mecha King Ghidrah is pretty badass too. And again, the innovation of that film, whether you like it or not, the storyline and the innovation.
Christ.
It's just it's all over the place. Yeah. But it's Godzilla films are not known for their realism, except for like -1 maybe, or Shin. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I'm going to say. I completely agree with Jonathan. We are like right on with those. How about you, Kyle? What do you think?
Wow. Favorite 3 Ghidrah designs. So for me, I feel like so many Ghidrahs look the same in general terms, right? So all the Showa era ones, to me, it wasn't until I was probably like doing the podcast in my life, that I was like, oh yeah, there are visual differences between the one in Monster Zero and the one in Godzilla versus Gigan. So really, though, I kind of lump all of those generally together. So the Showa era King Ghidrah is sort of, there is definitely something to be said about just the way that he looks. There is something that I absolutely love. I think I'm grabbing this right. There's something that I absolutely love about the design of King Ghidrah as the sort of Japanese dragon.
Absolutely.
Am I getting this right? No, wrong one. Where am I at here? I've got too many windows open. Yeah. Even, in Destroy All Monsters, I really do feel like he looks just as good as he does in like Monster Zero and the original King Ghidrah. Like, so that, for me, that's sort of like the top design, because that is essentially, that's the quintessential Ghidrah to me, right? Like, for me, I love the way that looks, even though I have gone on record saying like he's not one of my favorite monsters. He definitely is what I would call just so iconic for a kaiju. So then I have to, of course, admit that while many people are not a big fan of this version of King Ghidrah, wow, I have way too many windows open here. Hang on a second.
Close them windows.
No, I got to keep them open because we got to keep going back to them. Where did you go, sir?
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we all do. I
think you probably, yeah. It's no big surprise.
Spoiler alert.
GMK is one of my favorite movies of all time, and for me, the GMK Ghidrah, while some people dog on it for one reason or another, it's less about, to me, it's less about like, how does Ghidrah look compared to other Ghidrahs, and how did they take the design of King Ghidrah or the design of Varan, really, and turn that into King Ghidrah. So yeah, I do have GMK stuff here. Not too much. Unfortunately, my GMK folder is not nearly as extensive as it should be, in my opinion. But yeah, the design of King Ghidrah, if you didn't know, Varan was supposed to be in the movie originally, and what they did is they took the sort of side spikes of Varan and they turned it into King Ghidrah's side spikes, and that's why he,
that's why
has
it looks that
look.
way.
Yeah. And it's a different universe, and because I'm not married to the concept of King Ghidrah always being like a space demon or something like that, like I think that the originality of trying to modify an existing concept of these guardian beasts and Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters all attack, and turning King Ghidorah into one of those guardian beasts and likening him to the actual Yamato no Orochi from Japan as the 8-headed dragon. This is, to me, I think that's really cool, and it sort of like elevates the design of King Ghidrah in that movie to me. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3 will shock you, because again, I'm less about the presentation and more about the history on some of these things. And I think you guys know that in 2004, we got a movie called Godzilla Final Wars.
Oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Just hear me out. Hear me out. I'm looking for the actual here. So when Final Wars came out, they threw everything at this movie to try and make it a win. And that's not a good thing all the time. But one of the things that they did is they brought on several people that were not part of the regular Toho design team, right? So we're used to seeing like Shinji Nishikawa doing designs. That's like he worked on the original King Ghidorah. Sorry, he worked on the 91 King Ghidorah and the 92 Mothra and some other movies in between then, but he did some of the designs for some of the kaiju in the movie. But they also brought on other people, like the dude who did Metal Gear Solid. He did some designs for some of the stuff in the movie. But an artist named Katsuya Terada, who is more like a comic book artist, he's a manga artist, and he's got a really unique style. They asked him to design Kaiser Ghidrah. And so while the execution of this in suit form is not my favorite, I absolutely love his original design of King Ghidorah because it's so cool looking.
I like that.
And it's definitely, you look at this and then you look at what they did in the movie and you're like, okay, I can see what they were going for.
Yeah, that's cool as hell. I've never
seen
that.
They looked at that and they were like, how in the heck are we going to make that work? And they were like, okay, we have to cut some corners.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little bit too, it's a bit too bad, unfortunately. But yeah, the whole concept art behind King Ghidorah in that movie, and grain of salt stuff, but like his look in Final Wars is not, as refined as I think it is in some of his other movies, but they give him a black and gold like color scheme, which is I think really cool, and like
it's pretty effective.
I like a black and gold color scheme. So to me, I think that's probably design wise, because you asked top 3 Ghidrah desigins.
So true.
This is my third. So there you go.
Point. That's a really good point.
There
now,
you
Kyle,
go.
If I may expand on your your GMK, I totally understand what you're saying, even though maybe it wasn't executed as well as it could be, and it was a little short and stumpy. The storyline elevates that monster so much, because I'm not mad that he's not an outer space monster. I love that he's he took on a Japanese mythological creature. And again, we all have to realize, including myself, that he's not fully formed. That's not what he's supposed to look like. He was
right.
soon. So having said that, I don't like when he evolves at the end either. That's not that great either. But I see what you're saying with that, because the story is just that's what I was trying to get across in the 91. As the execution isn't the best ever, but the design and the story elevate it so much that I think it's significant. And I totally get it. And I really do like that Kaiser King Ghidorah image. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about the concept art. Totally forgot about that.
Me too. I didn't see it in those parameters. I just did but excellent.
Speaking of concept art, David wanted to share this image, and I wanted to make sure to also make sure we put it up on screen too. This is like one of the original images that was created to illustrate what Subaraya wanted for King Ghidrah.
And
Amazing.
And look at it, you guys. That's pretty much what we got. You know, it doesn't stray too far from that original design. And
Brilliant, yeah.
Jonathan alluded to the fact that he was sort of, you know, enchanted that Ghidrah was gold, this gold dragon. But Subaraya's initial idea for the monster was crimson red. That's exactly that's what they wanted to do for Ghidrah. And then they toyed around, as we all know, with the blue and the rainbow wings, which we saw, you know, realized in some figures and model kits and X Plus figures, and but it was never really used in the film. I think that would have been pretty cool too. But I do agree that gold is the best solution because you know, it just works so well, and it's so when you think of King Ghidrah, you think of gold scales, you know, and
gold, majestic, kingly, like, you know.
I'm not even gonna say Japanese. I'm gonna say Asian dragon, like Chinese, Japanese dragon, and the scales and seeing the scales in Japan, you know, on the actual Ghidrah, you know, suit was just like, you know, that was full circle for me. Oh, there you go. He's got some right there. And it's and then when you see someone like Gigan, a monster like Gigan, who actually, I'm sure some of those are old Ghidrah scales on his chest, and then you look at Manda 68, you look at his face, very similar to a King Ghidrah head, and I love the way they sort of have such a distinct Toho-esque vibe to them, and that's why I like it so much. And
so true.
And it's just really great. So anyway, Leslie, you made the question. Oh, Jonathan, did you want to say something?
No, just a real quick thing. Kyle, I wanted to respond a little bit. I love, while it's not my favorite by any means, one thing I really appreciate about the GMK design of Ghidrah is the fact that GMK Ghidrah looks more Japanese-like of a dragon, I feel like, especially in the heads, in the face, than any other designs that they ever did, and which is really cool. I did recognize that I love that aspect of it, like a cultural aspect. It's really cool.
Groovy.
Very, very true. I love it myself. Yeah.
Now wait for this one. This is going to be a different take. This is going to be a hot take. I can tell. I have a feeling.
There are no hot takes here. Okay. Maybe there are. I don't know.
Just hot cakes.
I mean,
hot cakes.
It's going to be so hot that I got my fan ready. You know. Well, so anyway,
hold my beer, because my top three. If you saw when we did our brainstorming session, I kind of answered this question before, and I'm an old guy that's stuck in my ways, so my list hasn't really changed. So my top three go in this order. Number 3, the 91 Ghidorah. Not Mecha King Ghidrah, but I enjoy the 91 Ghidorah more. That design is just, again, it's like the Showa, it's just updated. You know what I'm saying? And he looks a little more fierce than the Showa one. But I love the design so much. And hopefully at some point, somebody would get off their ass and make a solid representation of it at some point, collectible wise. I'm tired of waiting. But number 2, right there, legendary. I don't care if people don't like it. I don't care if people don't think he doesn't have the spirit of the original King Ghidrah. He does. We'll get more into that later on. But that design of King Ghidrah is, and again, you can say what you want about the MonsterVerse. There are a lot of things that they got wrong. But in my opinion, the one thing they got right was that Ghidorah, in my opinion. So number 2 is legendary. And number 1, the original, 1964. Like, nothing can top that. I mean, I agree with David said when they made him better, you know, in terms of special effects, how they executed him in Monster Zero. But the look of him in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster is my favorite look. I'm kind of torn between the golden and the red, white, and blue one that they were going to go with, but we'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, but those are my top 3. 91, legendary, as well. And the first one is 64. Now, and I think Nathaniel Plummer asked earlier, what's up with the GMK Ghidorah? Well, it kind of leads into my next question. What are your least 3 favorite versions of King Ghidorah. Go ahead, John.
Whoa. Okay. I feel like this is where it sort of goes a little off the rails. Maybe not all the way off the rails. Maybe a little bit. Okay. Not in any really particular order. This is like sort of a deep cut because it's like the same suit, but like Kyle said, there were differences. There were different iterations of said suit. They had to, change it over. They had to modify it, probably because of all the. One of my least favorite designs of all time is from a show that some of you may know, some of you may not know. I'm sure a lot of people do. It's from Zone Fighter, his Zone Fighter appearance. Dear God.
Yeah.
If we're going to sit here and talk about the one from Gigan being bad and just being a statue up there, my goodness, you have to bring up that one because that one I think is worse. And it makes the Gigan one look like he's ready for a pageant. I'm just saying. That's my.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's so bad that I'm like, no wonder. Maybe that's the main reason Toho doesn't want to release this thing internationally on like an actual release. Like they're like, okay,
the
Ghidrah design's pretty awful. I'm just saying. They're like, let's just keep that away from people. Okay.
Hang on. I need to find that one specifically. Yeah. Here you go.
Dude, yeah, it's
it's not very big. That's okay.
I don't know what's worse though. I don't.
It doesn't
know
need to be a large image,
worse,
right?
Or if it's it doesn't need to be a large. It could be a small GIF. As far as I'm concerned, don't want to blind everyone here. For the sake of their eyes. It's not like super bad, but it's pretty. I remember seeing it. I have a bootleg of Zone Fighter, and I remember like when that episode came along, I was just like, who quality controlled this? Apparently nobody did, or they just like, we need to just get it out, just get it done. We don't care what he looks like, just shoot him sort of from like a distance.
All right, wait, okay, here, back here, present screen. This is the Zone Fighter Ghidrah here. He
looks disheveled.
I mean, it's the year after Gigan, so it's they put him back in the closet, and then they're like, wait, we're not done yet.
Yeah, he's like, please put me out of my misery right there. He's like my head buried in the sand right there.
I'm sure Zone Fighter did put him out of his misery.
They're not even trying to move the heads. The heads are just kind of like.
No, yeah. Whoever's pulling, they're just like
they're not trying. They're done. They phoned.
Yeah, they're just like they're like my back hurts. Whatever. My second or third, whatever you could say. I appreciate the cultural and the aesthetic of it. From a design aspect, I'm not a fan of the GMK design. It's just not one of my favorites. He looks too plasticky in my eyes. Like if you get up close to it, it looks like
Jonathan, something's going wrong with your microphone all of a sudden. I'm just messing around. I totally understand.
Yeah, who doesn't
no wrong answers here.
Takarada, okay. No, but there are no wrong answers except for bringing up GMK. It's okay. I gotta say, I'll just leave that one there. I'm not gonna go too hard. I'm not gonna harp on that one too much. Third is there. I forget what it's called. Probably because it's not that memorable to me, but I do not like this design at all. It's the prehistoric version of Ghidrah from the same film. Oddly enough, the same film from the intro. I do not like that design. You know what it reminds me of? Because I always put things on like in grades, in tiers. And I was a big fan of Power. I know, Leslie, you appreciate this. I was a big fan of Power Rangers when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I was into that. But when I saw that Ghidrah, to me, it just looks like something from a Sentai show. To me, it's not as high grade as a normal Ghidrah design. Like clearly they really upgraded with Grand King Ghidrah. But this one, oh my goodness. It literally looks like 2 hands, 2 arms here, and like whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't.
That's
jive
the
with
issue
me.
I
I'm
have
not
with
a
the
fan.
GMK Ghidra, is because
Yeah.
it really looks like
it's too short, right?
two dudes, like a dude with puppets on his hands, which is,
Yeah,
you know, I've seen like cosplay of that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's clever, but like for the movie
Yeah.
itself,
Not so clever.
like
Yeah.
Ghidra's got to be
like a bad
he's got to be the
cosplay or
marionette
something.
style with the heads on the piano wires.
100%. And the next thing to be like not like super long, but they need to be just long enough, right? There's a fine line, and a majority of the designs have done that. But that one, oh yeah, it's not. I wouldn't put it on my on a list anywhere. Let's put it that way. It may be my bottom, but that's where I land there. David, I'm really interested here.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because
No, it's not.
several
No,
that I don't
it's not.
I think I know. Wait, where's
There's
the
several
comment?
that I don't care for. Okay.
Okay, this one, maybe?
Let me start. I'm gonna go into the animation. Okay.
Oh,
I do not like the animated King Ghidrah at all. I understand what they were trying to do. I think that whole series, they missed the mark because they went way too far from the original designs of the monsters that we all know and love. And they could have done, now think about this for a second. Those animators could have done absolutely anything. And that's what they chose to do.
So you're talking specifically about the Ghidrah in
Planet Eater,
Godzilla, the Planet Eater.
Yeah. I did not respond to that at all. I think it's really like way out there. And, you know, again, like Mechagodzilla is a city. Come on, man. You know, you can do anything you want animation wise, and this is what you choose to do. Come on. Don't like it. Don't ever want to watch it again. I wouldn't even call it King Ghidrah. I call it something else because it has nothing to do with the origins of Ghidrah or anything like that. And whatever. So that's my third one. I hate the Zone Fighter 2, but it's still got the design of the show. So I got to give that one a little bit of a pass, even though they didn't execute it at all, and the suit was tore up. But I don't like Death Ghidrah. I don't like from Mothra 2. Is it Mothra 2?
Mothra 1.
One.
Yeah.
It's the colors are wrong. It's
okay. I could see that.
It just never did anything for me.
Ghidrah in name only.
Just
one?
Yeah.
Just not a fan of it. I mean, I know it's like one of those quiet sleeper designs that some people absolutely love and respond to. I ain't one of them. No, not a fan. I mean, they totally changed course and did the Grand Ghidrah and Mothra 3. So I think they realized, hey, let's just go back to what Ghidrah's origins are. And again, you know, the problem with me with any monster, Ghidrah especially, is when they stray too far from the original concept and idea and feeling and intention of what it's just not Ghidrah to me. It's kind of a cool monster, but I don't
I
see
like
it.
the heads though. The heads design are really, really cool.
I mean,
before you move on from Death Ghidrah, I actually when this movie came out and I saw the photo poster from this film, right? Because the poster, the pre-release poster is just like a painted Mothra with the earth in front of it. But the photo version shows like the twins and Belvera and the Mothra and the fairy, and also the photo of Death Ghidrah. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Ghidrah with 4 legs. And I think King Ghidrah, sorry, I know it's not King Ghidrah, but Death Ghidrah, you know, what a badass name. Like, I really like the black and red color scheme of Death Ghidrah. It's like, what, I don't want to say it's one of my favorite Ghidrahs, but definitely really interesting deviation, I would say, on the Ghidrah concept for me.
Well, not for me.
That's good. That's all good.
I mean, I don't think I ever want to watch that movie again. That's just the way.
To be fair, those movies are hard to get through. So
let's just say that design doesn't make me want to watch the movie any more than I did before. So, and again, like I don't want to. I would have picked the GMK, but what Kyle said kind of made me change my mind because it is the story elevates it, and the mythology behind it elevates it for me. For and probably the concept art looked a lot better too. So here's my really hot take. Number one, I do not like the legendary, and let me explain why. It's really beautiful. It's executed well. I think the filmmakers kind of phoned it in because it looks like a Game of Thrones dragon. It does not look like the Ghidrah golden Asian Japanese inspired monster. It doesn't have any of the nuances of that original monster. It's done beautifully. The CGI is really well done. It doesn't have, like Leslie said before, it doesn't have the heart. It doesn't have the feel of the original concept of what I think Ghidrah should be. And I know, I'm totally in the minority when I say this, but I love Game of Thrones, and if I want to see that type of a dragon, I'll watch that. Who did it first and better? And I don't
think you're in the minority in this group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do agree with you on that. Like, one of my issues when I love the concept art, and the posters were really cool. And that first trailer, when you see the heads like illuminated with the eyes behind like the smoke and stuff, I remember getting up out of, Janelle will tell you, I got up off the couch and I was like, oh my God, like that looked incredible. There are aspects of it that I like, but when you get to like the design overall, it does look like too much of a basic wyvern, like GOT dragon. Like that was my biggest, like a three-headed smog in a way. And I think what makes Ghidrah so unique is that Ghidrah doesn't look like any other dragon. When you put a lot of dragons up next to Ghidrah, even like Orochi, like Ghidrah still stands out above any other dragon. So I think in that way they made it look a little too dragony, too general based dragony. That's that's what I would say.
It's too Hollywood. It's too let's just copy what's making a lot of money, what everybody likes. And John McCoy said what I also wanted to say is it's like Smog. I mean, it's really not an Asian, Japanese inspired dragon. Yeah, right there. That's exactly right, John. And again, that doesn't take away from the fact that it's beautifully executed. And I know, Helmy, you love it, but sorry about it, man. It's just not my thing. And if I had to pick a monster that they did right design-wise, it had to be Rodan. Because Rodan looks like
that's debatable. But,
well, I mean,
that Rodan was great.
I'm about to say something positive about the MonsterVerse, so you need to just let me say this before I decide to change my mind. I think again, like I said,
you are so faking it right now.
No. The problem with Legendary is they strayed. I know they want to do something different and reinvent the monsters. I understand that, but please give the nuances and the things that we love about these monsters cannot be lost in the process, in the translation. And I think that's one of my main problems for the MonsterVerse. So, having said all that, I don't care for the Ghidrah, and I really hate the different personalities of the heads. I think that is absolutely asinine and stupid. Kevin, I hate when people call it Kevin. It's just insulting to me, and I don't like that at all.
Don't say that in front of Janelle.
Kevin. She loves Kevin. Well,
she said that she put this on a Post-it before the stream.
What does it say? Happy Kevin
Day. Kevin Day.
Well,
she put this right next before she left, and she gave me this look, and I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "Oh,
no." I mean, Ghidrah is a terrifying space monster. He's not like a character from Home Alone. You know what I mean? It's just not. No.
Like Marv?
Yeah. No, like Kevin. 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 But anyway, that's me. How about you, Kyle? What do you think? What are your least favorite designs?
We're giving Leslie a time to breathe and.
Yeah. Well, so least favorite designs, right? Like I leaned hard into the design aspect of things. So I'll do that again for this too. And I don't need to illustrate things because we've already actually covered them. Design wise, least favorite is actually the 2019 King Ghidorah. I'm saying that as a fan of that movie. I actually really, of all the MonsterVerse films, that's my favorite of the entirety, even though I know that's got some real cringe moments in the film. What I like about King Ghidorah from that movie is his portrayal. He is a bastard. And so, but that's the best thing I could say about it. In terms of the design, I agree with David. It's too much like a regular dragon. And Ray2D2 said Toho Ghidrah is a kaiju, legendary Ghidrah is a dragon. And so that to me is like why I don't like the design of the legendary King Ghidrah. The second one, we already talked about the anime trilogy. Leslie knows exactly how I feel about the anime trilogy, and I even did my best. I did my best to try and like watch that one again. Because again, not talking about the execution or the end result of these monsters. The design of the 2018 Planet Eater King Ghidrah does not do it for me. And to me, it doesn't have the design, doesn't have the splendor, the regalia, I guess you could even say, of the Toho Ghidrah. And that's what I want in a Ghidrah design. So that's number 2. And then number 3, I would say, while I like the concept, and I like things that they did for the Ghidrah, I actually don't really care for the Grand King Ghidrah from Mothra 3.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, I think it's again, I'm talking about the design, right? The design, it's like there's a lot of like swoopy elements to it, which are kind of cool, but at the same time, like, you know, please don't hate me, Shinichi Wakasa, for saying this, but you know, I just don't really, and probably I'm leaning a little bit too much into the execution of this, but like it's super stiff, super slow, doesn't seem as imposing. It looks mean, but so does the legendary. You know, those both look mean, and that I think is one of the things that is lacking in Ghidorah designs overall. But I don't need it to look mean. Ghidrah's just freaky. You know, like Ghidrah, the Showa design is definitely like the top of the line for me. And so I understand what they were doing in Mothra 3. I appreciate it, just like I appreciate what they were doing, sort of appreciate what they were doing in the anime trilogy, you know, but in terms of like ranking them, least favorite designs definitely would be legendary and the anime trilogy, and man, it's I see Helmy saying, "Oof, my heart." There again, I'm just talking about the design aspects of these things. But anyway, those are my answers. Not too hopefully not breaking too many hearts there. Leslie, how about you?
Let's see. My least 3 favorite Ghidorah designs, and again, after I say my list, I don't want to hear anybody say ever again that the 72 Ghidorah is the worst or the GMK Ghidorah is the worst. In my opinion, my least 3 favorite Ghidorah designs, not in particular order, but I agree with Jonathan. I think Cretaceous Ghidorah looks like somebody ate a whole bunch of chicken wings and then they just took the bones and made a Ghidorah statue out of it. That's what I look at when I see the Cretaceous Ghidorah. Like you feel like
what kind of wings though? What kind of wings though?
Buffalo Wild Wings, whatever. Just eat them up, set the meat off, and then when you have a whole bunch of them, just make a King Ghidorah statue. That, and you got Cretaceous Ghidorah. That is what I see when I see Cretaceous Ghidorah. So that's number 3, number 1, or whatever. Number 2, I agree. I think with David when he said, I think he said that. One of y'all said it, but yeah, the Planet Eater. Lord have mercy, Jesus Christ. When I heard, and again, I keep going back to this, but again, a lot of times back in the day when the Kaiju Cast did the regular episodes, and I couldn't wait to hear it because they were really my go-to whether I want to see something far as kaiju related, if I'm going to rush to see it or if I'm going to take my time to see it. And I have never heard Kyle sounded so depressed and rejected and just God, kind of like a lot of us were
Deflated.
back in November. But anyways, I never heard Kyle sounded so just, and even Gretchen was on the show and even she couldn't save him. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay. So I did watch it just a little bit. And when I saw that spaghetti noodle bowl of spaghetti ghost electrical thingy, I'm like, that's what you done to King Ghidrah? Like, really? I'm like, I felt depressed. I felt my house was going to foreclosure. That's how depressed I was, you know. So that would be number 2, the Planet Eater Ghidorah. And also, I can't stand the Ghidorah from the Godzilla ride simulation. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that Ghidorah.
Shin
I forgot about that. And also, well, there's 2. There's the one from the ride, right, which is in Cebuan Amusement Park, and then there's the Shin as well, which I forgot all about.
Let's see. Do you have an image of that so we can sort of maybe?
I don't. Which one? Okay, hang on a second. So Shin Ghidrah, and then the Ghidrah the ride, right? I gotta find images. I didn't even look those up.
I do not like Shin Ghidrah. I totally forgot about, and I also forgot about the anime Ghidrah. You guys brought it up. I was like, oh, I totally blocked that one from my whole memory. I was like, I need to remember that. Damn, that's a good one.
I mean,
yeah.
They can do anything they wanted with animation, and that's what they picked. Come on, man. Come on. What are you smoking?
I personally also think
while I'm trying to find these images, what I will say, I wanted to very quickly say that, like, as I was talking about this, I'm literally saying design, like the actual design of these things. I'm less focusing on the actual imagery that would be the creatures. But okay, so Planet Eater, while I don't like the design of King Ghidrah, what I will say about the Planet Eater King Ghidrah is his execution is much creepier than I thought it would have been. But again, like, I don't like it. I'd hate those. I like really borderline on hate those movies. Like, I understand they were deconstructing the entire Godzilla mythos and reconstructing it in this hard sci-fi tale, but it's just not. It's not for me. Okay, so I've got the images. This is what Godzilla. This is what Ghidrah looks like in the ride.
Look at that. He's got
hell? He's got beaks.
No, he looks tore up. I don't like that at all. No,
he kind of looks either. Like he has legendary-esque.
He does. No, it's tired. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, I take my mind. Death Ghidrah's out. This is in. I hate that. I hate it.
What I will also, what I should say is, keep this in mind when we answer Leslie's question later about the -1 universe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I will. Yep.
No, Yamazaki, please don't. Like, stay away from that. Like, do Ghidrah. I don't care. Don't. I'm sorry. When I saw that Ghidorah from the ride, I'm like, it's bad enough you don't see Rodan for 2 seconds, if that. Godzilla's fine, but that Ghidorah, I felt like he was going to fall apart. Like, the more he flapped his wings, the more he was going to just disintegrate into the dust like Thanos, snap his fingers, something like that. Yeah, but those are my least 3 favorite Ghidorah designs: the ride, Planet Eater, and Cretaceous chicken wing Ghidorah. All right, so let's go to the
wait. So there was we talked about the Shin.
Oh yeah,
Ghidrah,
Shin.
And I think some of you guys haven't seen that.
Too.
So there's 2 rides. The one that we talked about already, that was done by Yamazaki. That's in the Cebuan Amusement Park. But after Shin Godzilla came out in 2016, so several years before, there was a Universal Studios Shin Godzilla 4D experience, I think is what it was. Don't hate on me if I got that wrong. But they did put a Shin Ghidrah in the ride, and this is what he looked like.
Wait for it. Yeah, I don't.
It's kind of interesting.
It's better than the other one.
It's better than the other one. I definitely agree with that. I don't have like a production image of that. Man, I wish I had I wish we had talked about this a little bit more,
Oh
because
man,
I would have tried to find some more images of this.
I don't hate that one as much as the other one. Like the other one just was a response like no way. I like the faces. The faces are pretty badass.
I like the eyes. That's like basically.
It's like
What
it's
eyes?
almost like a conglomeration of the GMK, the Showa, and the Heisei all at once. You know,
Let's see.
I'm not mad at that one, honestly. Maybe it's just
Yeah,
the
sorry.
angle.
This is the another image of it. I don't know how official these are, but yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not
mad
so bad. It's
I'm
not so
mad at
bad.
that at all. Sorry. Mm-mm.
Just to
That's
make
true.
sure that we don't leave out any Ghidras. Not no
There's a
Ghidras
lot.
left behind, kind of thing.
Is
here.
left behind. That's so funny.
Right. Again, nobody can ever say that the 72 Ghidorah is the worst. I'm sorry, we just gave you 3 of them. So just don't pick on the 72 Ghidorah. It's not his fault that he was drugged. Okay.
You're not wrong.
All right.
All right. When
All right.
Leslie asked this question, I gotta dip out for a second, but I'll be right back, and I'll still be hearing you guys. So
Okay. All right. Here is the next question. And okay, I'm gonna need Kyle to pull the images, so I'll just go to another question. What are your top 3 favorite King Ghidorah fight scenes?
oh, there you go.
Jonathan, go.
All right.
Well, obviously, number one has to. I always go to the ones that I saw first. It's the first thing I ever saw. I love the fight scene from Destroy All Monsters because he's up against all the monsters. How great is that? I mean, you can't get any better than that. Let's see. Second favorite has to be 91, and the 91 goes in 2 parts because I love the initial fight between them. It sort of starts off in phases. It's like in a lot of the OG, like in a lot of the Showa Godzilla movies, they were basically wrestling matches, and I do like that, and I appreciate that. But the 90s ones, they were kind of like in stages. Like they were very strategic. They started with beam effect. Like they started like shooting their beams at each other, and then they started going closer in. And I love the way that they cinematically shoot that fight sequence in 91. I thought it was very epic, it went very hard. Like when he's flying around and he's shooting his beams at Godzilla, and he kicks Godzilla over, and he falls. He creates like this huge hole in the ground, and he's stuck in there, and he's like jumping on top of him and just trolling him basically. And then Godzilla, shoots his middle head off, gets the upper hand. But then we have that amazing reveal, and I think was like an ultimate, like, not a spoiler, but like the ultimate, like, what do you call it? Like when something happens out of nowhere. I'm blocking out. I'm losing the terminology, but the ultimate twist in that film is when Mecha King Ghidrah comes out just appears, teleports out of the sky, and you hear the music and that entrance. As a kid watching that on VHS for the first time, because like keep in mind at this time social media wasn't really a thing. Yeah, we had the internet, but it was very primitive at the time. There were very few sites that would cover these things. So when I first saw that movie, I genuinely was seeing it for the very first time. So seeing Mecha King Ghidrah come out of nowhere, my mind was absolutely blown. I was like, oh my God, a mecha version of Ghidrah? That's crazy. And it was freaking awesome. And I loved every moment of it. And again, with the city and the miniature scale and everything, what they did with those battles those 2 battles in that film, I think it's my number 1, honestly. It even eclipses Destroy All Monsters for me in terms of the epicness and the scale of it and everything.
Wow.
And the design, and the blocking of the scenes and everything. Third, okay, we've dished on this one enough, but I was quiet about it because let me preface this by saying I loathe the anime trilogy. Do not like any bit of it. However, I'm not going to just throw away something that I genuinely, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. You guys know me, I'm a musical person. I hear music in something and it makes me, it fills me up emotionally, and it gets me into something if I'm really into it.
Absolutely.
And what happened with when Ghidrah appears, when they have that seance and they're trying to like pull Ghidrah out of the portal or whatever. They're like worshiping Ghidrah, and then he starts like lobbing off the heads you see like in the shadows. The execution of that moment with, and I'm not a big fan of this composer. You guys know this, Takayuki Hattori. I do not like Space Godzilla's music. I think it sounds like a circus. I'm not a fan of his Godzilla 2000 score. I think it's weak, but I do love this one track. He brought out almost like the best of himself, because it's like this like creeping, like slithery snake of a Ghidrah that you think is coming to save you, but he's really coming to destroy you. And the way that whole sequence happens when you see him kind of like slowly lobbing off the heads, and then people are like, wait, what's going on? That's not what I thought it was going to be. And that music that looks like those like taiko drums and the low strings as they come up with the brass, it's very brooding. It's very like timed well, I think. And I just love how chaotic it gets in that moment when you see him come through the portal, that eerie music with like the oboes and stuff as it's coming down, twisting down through. I think the execution of that is like top tier from a cinematic perspective. It's the only bit of credit I'm ever going to give that anime trilogy. After that moment, I remember watching that scene at home. After that was over, it was done for me. I was still like, this movie's trash. But that one scene out of all three of those movies, that one scene, I give them their flowers. I thought it was really well done. That's my number 3 scene, or probably my number 2 next to.
It's the best scene in the movie for sure.
Yeah. After that, I'm like, after that, I was like, click. I don't care anymore. And I can listen to that track. I listen to that track often. Like when the car comes up in a playlist, I'm just like, okay, I see you, Takayuki Hattori. I see you, or I hear you. Rather, it's more accurate. I hear you. But that's my top 3. David, what say you, my friend?
I'm gonna just kind of go with my gut and my emotions and say number 1 is the first time I saw Ghidrah, the battle on Planet X. I mean, it's short, concise, but that's all we needed to get hooked. Well, all I needed to get hooked. It's executed really well. It's iconic. I mean, this is the first time we see Godzilla and Rodan in outer space. I think the only time we see Godzilla and Rodan in outer space, right?
Yeah.
The matte paintings behind the battle are beautiful. The sets with the glistening rocks, I get chills when I see it. And just even the lead up to it, when, the saucers land, they go back into the center of the planet. And then you hear the music start, and then all of a sudden the cylinders just disappear, and it's just we're just ready for this fight. And then you see the ray come out of the side of the mountain, and it awakens Godzilla and Rodan. And at that point in the film, we're so ready to see them, so it makes it extra special for me. So that to me is like chef's kiss, my favorite. Not to be outdone by the first battle on Mount Fuji with Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan. I mean, come on. It's so good, and it's so well done. At first, you think Mothra is going to fight him by himself. It's just Mothra by himself, and the other two are still squabbling up there. And then all of a sudden, you see Godzilla turn the corner on the top of the hill, and he starts running down. And then that first battle when King Ghidrah just lays into him and he falls into the bridge, and it's just so well done. And then, one of my favorite small scenes in that movie is when Rodan's like, okay, I got to get in on this. You see, he comes down and he kicks the heads with his feet, and then he coaxes Ghidrah up in the air, and then he's chasing, and then all of a sudden he turns around, boom. Psh. I love that. It's so great, so well done, so innovatively executed for the time and the special effects. I absolutely love that. Now, number 3 is a tie between Destroy All Monsters, the epic battle on Mount Fuji, where you see King Ghidrah actually bleed and die. Supposedly, maybe he didn't really die, but he was down for the count for sure. And you see blood on his neck, and you really see blood spurt from his mouth. And for a little kid, I was like, this is pretty intense. And for Tsuburaya and Honda to do that must have been they must have had a quarrel about that, because usually they don't want to show that kind of violence in a Godzilla film, you know, but it's undeniably epic, you know, and, you know, you see something's approaching on the scope and it's like, and then of course the key lock comes on and says, you know, whatever she says. And then you're like,
Ghidra
oh
is
no,
under
oh, no.
our control.
Yeah. So prepare to surrender, you know. We'll talk to you later after he kicks the asses of these monsters. But it's just so good and so well done. And the one that it's tied with is what Jonathan said, the 91 battle between the Heisei 91 Godzilla and King Ghidorah. The first battle where Godzilla gets his choked by one of the necks. I think that's a really innovative way to sort of
the poster
and that kind of poster, which we'll talk about a little later. I just love that. And Godzilla's foaming at the mouth and you think he's done for, and, you know, never count Godzilla out. We already know that. But, and then of course he loses a head amongst a shower of glitter. So, you know, that was kind of unexpected too. You know, when I saw that, I'm like, wow.
Right, Janelle's favorite moments. She
Yeah.
loved the glitter.
So those two are tied for me because I can't choose which one I like better, but that's what I pick for the best battles of the Golden Dragon. Kyle, how about yourself?
Oh man, okay, tough, super tough, right? So number one, I agree with you about Monster Zero. That's probably my favorite. The fight on Planet X is great, but since you already talked about that, what I will do is the moment where King Ghidrah, Godzilla, and Rodan are broken free from the Planet X control.
Yes.
And they have that moment where it's like, whoa, 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 what just happened here? And like, you know, some ish is about to go down, right? So that to me, that's probably one of my favorite moments in a King Ghidorah fight. And the fight itself, you know, King Ghidorah in the Showa era, you know, some of the fights, I think someone was saying like, yeah, Nathaniel Plummer says that the epic Destroy All Monsters fight is just one-sided. I totally agree with that, you know, but still a lot of fun. And actually, I think Jonathan said it first, the King Ghidrah in 91, while he's actually not, he's sort of like mid in terms of like design and execution, the bombastic score by Ifukube, awesome. When those two kaiju clash, it makes the whole thing way more epic. So that would be sort of like my number two. And then number three is GMK. There's like two moments specifically.
All right. Shocker.
I know. Sorry. I mean, that when Ghidrah rushes Godzilla and all of his heads sort of like grab onto Godzilla.
Oh yeah.
And he starts like doing the like lightning electricity thing. It looks so cool. And then Godzilla takes a chomp into Ghidrah's neck and blood starts coming down like that. I was like, this is what I want in this Godzilla versus Ghidorah fight. And then, you know, just as a quick aside and you know, an honorable mention, the moment where Godzilla blasts the evolved King Ghidorah, where King Ghidorah's up in the sky and Godzilla blasts him, and then Ghidorah basically turns around and like all the energy has like sort of accumulated and shoots it back down. That explosion is like the Michael Bay moment of the Godzilla franchise. And I know that you know, Teruyoshi Nakano, the special effects director of the 70s, he loved explosions and loved fire, but that specific iteration of a beam to physical explosion where the Godzilla suit flies back into the water, I freaking love that, man. As you can tell, like I am like just even thinking about it, I'm giddy. I'm gonna be watching GMK again tonight, I'm sure.
I say you're making us all like want to watch these movies.
You know what? I think I'm gonna too, because Keith loves GMK also. That's one of his favorite movies, and he loves it. So And
Leslie,
you know,
those are our favorites.
wait, one more thing. There's
Oh
one
wait,
more
yeah, David, go ahead.
in GMK that I can't not say when Ghidrah is discovered under the ice. That's terrifying. Like, whoa. I was like, whoa. And then, you know, the ice starts to crack and then one head comes up. And then that, to me, that's the best Ghidrah moment in GMK. I love that. And because you've already sort of, you've been spoon-fed a little bit of the legend. So, and then when that actually starts to happen, it's awesome. So sorry, Leslie, I can't wait to hear this one. Let's go.
Let's see, top three. I agree with you, David, and you, Jonathan. The third one is the first fight between Godzilla and Ghidorah in '91. And Kyle, you touched on it. It's like that moment when it comes on like Pluto TV or when I watch it, I always rewind it. It's not even them fighting, it's them when they just come across each other and they're just roaring at each other, trying to scare the crap out of each other, and they're not having it. And it's like then the music comes in, it's like, oh yeah. And it's moments like that when the monsters don't even touch yet, and you're just like, oh God, you know,
anticipation. Yeah.
Patient.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that is my third favorite fight. Number two, and again, I know this movie is plagued with issues, but I still love it. The final fight from Gigan. I seen Gigan and Ghidorah together fighting Godzilla and Anguirus. Is again, I know half of it was stock footage, but at the very end, when Godzilla turns into John Cena and just starts whipping ass, I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
How many times does he flip Ghidrah over and like
three?
Like three times?
Yeah.
One of the best moments in Godzilla film history. That moment right there, when he got him in the full Nelson, which when I first saw that, I was like, why didn't Godzilla do that in the earlier movies? He could have got behind Ghidrah, got him in the full Nelson, and then when you think he's done, he flips him like 3 times. And I was like, even now when I watch it, like I just said with the 91 stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And that is so cool.
Leslie, it's because they didn't want to reuse the same shot 3 times, but by the 70s, they're like, you know what? We're just screw it. Let's just do it.
You know what? The 70s get a lot of crap, but you know what? At least the 70s films put Godzilla in situations where it made you almost doubt if he was going to win or not. You can say what you want about the quality, but almost every single fight, maybe with the exception of Megalon, they put that shred of doubt in there, like, oh, can he get past Ghidorah? Oh, can he get past Mechagodzilla? Can he get past Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla?
You know what I'm saying? You know, that's a really good point, and that could be a whole show in itself. That's
absolutely. Great. So number 2 is the final fight from Gigan for me. And number 1, of course, the final fight from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. And epic. What is so cool about that fight, which I kind of have an issue with the final fight in Monster Zero, because Ghidorah is taken out like in 3 minutes, and I can't stand that. I'm sorry. But in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, what is so cool is that every single monster try to take on Ghidorah by themselves, and each one of them failed. Mothra fails, Godzilla fails, Rodan fails, and then they're like, you know what? If we attack them at the same time, which they do, they still have a chance. And even then the fight goes on for like another 3 or 4 minutes after that point. So Ghidorah wasn't a wimp in that movie. So that it's kind of like equivalent. Like, what would happen, let's say, if Brock Lesnar, that big ferocious wrestler, Brock Lesnar, just bust into your house right now, and let's say David, Kyle, and Jonathan, you sitting there watching TV, all of a sudden Brock Lesnar busts into your house and he's going to claim the house for himself, and you have to beat him to the death to get your house back. You will probably have to do what Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra did. One has to tackle him from his legs. One has to tackle on his back. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at that fight scene, it's like, that was actually some good strategy. So that's like my favorite fight scene of all time when it comes to Ghidorah from the original film, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. So now let's go with the next question. All right, what are your top 3 favorite movie posters or artwork when it comes to King Ghidorah? Jonathan, go.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure Kyle has them close to being queued up. I'm just going to... So basically, these aren't in any particular order. These are just my top 3 in general. There is this one poster that I've seen forever, and I believe it's an English import poster of Invasion of Astro Monster. And I just really loved like the vibe and the look of it. It's got this look. It reminds me of, you guys, you know, and I have the VHS of it, the Orion poster. There it is.
Love it.
This invasion of Astromont. First of all, I love things that are painted, like straight up, like detailed in every single way possible. And I love how it's like your classic, like you have your main characters right in the bottom third, in the bottom corners are like looking up, oh no. Like I love, that's a classic sort of trope in movie posters, especially like monster or sci-fi movies. But then the imagery here, like these designs are pretty faithful. When you see a lot of poster designs, especially for movie posters, even if they're like imported or they're foreign, they tend to go a little crazy, right? We've seen a lot of them. They get a little goofy at times, but a little out of the box. But this one's very traditional, and I love the designs here of Ghidrah, Rodan, and Godzilla. And I just love the overall aesthetic of it. It has this like late 70s, early 80s sort of aesthetic to it that I really dig. I love the font. I just love it. I love the space, sort of like dark, like look in the background, Ghidrah imposing overhead. That's just super cool. And it's kind of cool because it's got this sort of, it's the same vibe as when they're trapped in the bubbles, you know, like they're kind of like in that bottom like half there. I kind of dig that.
You know what it looks like, Jonathan? It looks like a James Bond poster almost.
It really does. And I like a Moonraker or something. Yeah. And I love that.
And I love that.
I love that.
Good choice.
So that's one. The next one is probably one of my favorite ones of all time. You Destroy All Monsters. I believe this is the international or poster.
The Japanese one.
There we go. The Japanese one.
But the international version, which is right back there. Yes. Uses the same artwork.
I love this. And what I always loved about these posters is the music notes on the edges for the border.
Love that about
Chef's
Japanese
kiss.
posters.
Like Chef's Kiss. I love that. I freaking love that. And I guarantee you, I haven't done research on this, but I'm almost fairly certain that it's probably the main title, the Destroy All Monsters theme music right there. I would have to look and research that, but that's just cool. I love all of the illustrations too of the kaiju. I just think they look amazing. They just, need I say more? You look at it right there, you'd probably say the same thing. I love like the look of the studio matte painting backdrop look with like spaces like, you know, not exactly full on black. It's got like a dark, like brown, bluish, like purplish hue to it. I love that. I love the SY3. I love the lettering. I love the characters design on the characters here. And like even here you see like the names of each of the kaiju.
I love it.
Next to them. That's just, it's iconic.
And it's got a key lock in there.
Yes. And of course I love that look when they're like, oh no, look what's going on. I love that. I just love that. And the third one is it's a classic. It's probably one we've seen all over the place. The yellow Ghidrah, the three-headed monster. These U.S. posters, right? I believe this is a U.S. poster.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I just love how it's almost like, I always say I don't like things like, especially on shirts that is like word vomit. There's like so much on it that you can't see what's happening, or it's like too much stimulation of words and on patterns of the design. But I do love the way this is all aesthetically like arranged, like the reds with the gold in the back with the yellow, like the Ghidrah, the three-headed monster. Like I love the side, all new sights, like never before to be forgotten, all new. It's like I love all that stuff.
It's a sign of the times too.
It really
you don't
is.
you don't ever see posters like this unless they are literally hearkening back to these 1960s sort of like how do we get people, how do we get the butts in the seats? That's the vibe of these. I agree with you, Jonathan. This is a phenomenal,
dude.
It's a phenomenal design. It's like definitely eye-catching. I actually kind of wish that I was like could go back in time and see these on display. And actually, can we just super briefly talk about the fact that like this is also when the best press materials were being released for these movies too. They had all these like cool like concepts for people who are making who are like bringing the film to their theater. Like, how do you get the butts in the seats? Well, you can do a parade with Godzilla and King Ghidrah, and just like it such crazy things. This one specifically had like a mask.
That's right.
Paper mask.
Yeah.
Of Ghidrah.
Mask. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, I don't need to keep going on.
No, you're right. No, you're right. And Kyle, too, the clip that you showed in the beginning of the show, the trailer, the American trailer, the U.S. trailer, is a perfect companion to that poster, because we basically they said the same thing in the commercial, then the movie clip, than they do in the poster. So it's basically a perfect companion. And like Kyle said, they really knew how to hype it up for kids and wanting them to go in there. And I think in 1964, they took it a step further with that poster, Godzilla versus the Thing, because Mothra maybe wouldn't have been so marketable, but the Thing, we don't know what it is. And they made it look so ambiguous, like what is behind that question mark? So they took that a step further next year. I'm sorry, the year before. I'm sorry, the year before.
Same
but
year.
They were made
essentially
the same time. But so the 64A poster, Mothra versus Godzilla, was the Thing. And I think that's brilliant. And I just watched an amazing documentary on William Castle, who was the king of gimmicks and getting people into the seats. But anyway, I just had to point that out.
Yeah, I would say one last thing I'd like to point out about that poster. The last one is they use the yellow space, like in the background, that negative space, to blot out the Ghidrah's eyes. So he looks that much more menacing, and like just those like whited out. It just looks that much more imposing. And the fact that the details, you see, they didn't skip on that poster at all. You see, like they don't show the whole. They kind of like block the whole design from the bottom half by having like flames and like tanks and buildings being destroyed. Like these things are just cool design choices. And that shot, that profile is so iconic. I mean, I look, when I think of Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster, or I think of like those three monsters, I think of that poster immediately. It comes to mind.
Excellent. Good choices.
I think the image, even though what I'm about to show is flipped, right? But like, this is the quintessential image of Godzilla, Ghidrah, and Mothra and Rodan, like
100%.
And there's some variations on this depending on what it is. This is obviously a colorized version for some press materials, but like that's definitely the inspiration for that poster that you're talking about, Jonathan.
And Mothra looks so big. My goodness.
I know.
He looked really good, but cool. Oh, great choice.
David, what say you?
So I'm not sure which one Kyle has first, so I'll let him put it up, and then we'll go from there. You put up.
Let me get over to it. David and his posters.
This was so hard because there's so many amazing so much amazing poster art out there, and I think Kyle and I both were looking at Sean Lincolnback's book to sort of get inspiration. I mean that one. Yes, I do.
Oh yeah, that's a great book,
and that's a must-have for any collector and movie fan, even if you're not a collector. So, of course,
great choice.
Leslie called me out because when I initially posted my three choices, I neglected to put Monster Zero in there, and I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right, because I couldn't find this one, and I finally found it, and I rectified the situation, and there it is. I love this. It's just the design of this is just insane. The way they use the space to have the monsters in there. And you got the buddy team, Nick Adams and Akira Takarada at the bottom, and the saucer's just like shooting beams out. It's just a wonderful design, and it's very colorful, and I absolutely love that.
And they did the same thing with Ghidrah's eyes in this too.
Did they really? Oh, that's right, they did. Yeah. They blotted them out. They GMK'd him.
Yeah, right.
Even before
GMK'd him.
Yeah. So that's my first one. Or there's really no order because I love them all. I'm with Jonathan. I love the poster. I mean the paintings. Arise, iconic Heisei depiction of the battle between King Ghidorah and Godzilla is just next level awesome.
Absolutely.
And I just love this. It's perfectly designed. It's symmetrical. It's beautiful. And I think of all of the Heisei Orai paintings, this is my favorite one. And
I really captured like
love
that dystopian feel of all these films. He heightened the action and the premise and the prestige of these creatures with his posters. Like his posters, like are just they're top tier.
They're top tier. And the way Ghidrah is actually attacking him, wrapped around his leg, and it's just perfect. And when I saw this artwork, I saw the poster after I saw the movie, but it didn't, which came first, the chicken or the egg. They're both amazing. And I'm with Leslie, and I know we're in the minority. The 91 film is probably my favorite Heisei film. I gotta say, it's up there. It's way up there.
Leslie, Kyle. Kyle.
We agree on so much.
Each their own. It's all good.
But
There's
anyway,
no wrong answers here today, guys.
I'm about to get muted now, I think, right? No. Anyway, that's my next choice. Like I said, they're all on an equal playing level. And then the next image is I love the speed posters. And I just love it's almost like a reconfiguration of Jonathan's choice, but it's more, we've got more of the cast in there. You've got the Shobijin down there. You've got the brother and sister, and the color scheme of this speed poster is just phenomenal. And I know if you like these kind of posters, you can go and get those Kodansha reproduction posters that come in the box sets with the DVDs. There's one right there Kyle's got. But you have to be careful. You have to look at the back because sometimes the speed poster doesn't correspond with what's on the cover. So you have to so if you want this poster, it's not necessarily in the Ghidrah box. So this is the Mecha Godzilla book, book, whatever you want to call it. Set. But what's the poster that comes? I can't see. What is that? Destroy All Monsters. The speed poster, the one in the center there. That's Destroy All Monsters.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So
right, I think,
no, you're right, these posters are just phenomenal, and they're so colorful and so fun. And I've got a couple framed over here. I remember going to Kyle's house, and he has the original speed poster for Monster Zero. Sorry, Rodan. And I absolutely love that. So I got the Kodansha reproduction that I have to get framed at some point and hang up. But yeah, again, so difficult to choose because there's so many great designs. I love all of Jonathan's too. And I'm sure I'm going to love that. That's it. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to love all of Kyle's and all of Leslie's. So you really can't go wrong. There are no wrong answers for this question, but those are the ones that came to mind and spoke to me the most. So how about you, Kyle? What did you choose?
Ooh, guys. Well, I freaking love posters. I love posters. They're probably, that if I had a much larger house and absolutely no wherewithal to share display space with my wife, I would be plastering posters all over this house. But I'm a good husband, and I understand that this is a shared environment. Even though she would make sure that I mentioned she loves the posters too, so she has no problem putting up posters. We have 2 international posters downstairs. Right when you walk in the door on either side of the tatami room, there's the Godzilla versus Megalon international poster and the Space Amoeba international poster. Anyway, my choices, let me actually stop yapping and get my images up here. My choices were a little difficult to rain down into which ones do I actually want to show.
So many. So
interesting. Okay. I've got, why did these show up in 2 windows? I don't know, but let's do a quick presto changeo rearrangeo here.
Well, there are 3 Ghidrah heads, so maybe 3 windows.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Sure, we'll go with that. We'll just do this one. Okay, so we hide that sidebar. And actually, number 1, I'll go with the newer one. I'll fire up the old Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack.
That's a great one.
Now,
yes.
this is actually it's not Noriyoshi Orai. I can't remember the artist that did this, but the fact that he includes Baragon in the image is great because Baragon doesn't get a spot in the title of the movie.
Damn.
But if you haven't seen the title-less artwork, this is it. So the whole thing, absolutely just beautiful artwork. And even Ghidrah doesn't look exactly like he does in the movie. It's like it's almost like a romanticized version of that.
He looks great.
It's incredible.
Dude.
I love the show of Baragon look in that too.
Right?
Like,
yeah, definitely.
So cool.
Yeah. Okay. This is another one. This is one that you wouldn't probably think, and if I ever find this, I'm going to buy it. But when Gigan came out in Britain, in the UK, the poster for that is freaking incredibly cool.
I love that one.
War of the Monsters. And where's Gigan? Who cares? Ghidrah gets the top slot in this poster. I love this image.
I love the shape.
In terms of design,
that candy cane ray
is
wild.
Right? This is on my hit list for sure. I gotta find this eventually, and I hopefully I can find one. It doesn't cost me an arm and a leg.
Godzilla's got some blood on him too. Looks like.
Yeah.
And then, so, I was gonna show this Destroy All Monsters poster, right, as my third choice. But really, when it comes to my absolute favorite poster in the world, it is the one I have back here. I'm blowing myself up for a second. Right here.
Yes.
Okay, I have this poster. This is not an original, but it is a reprint, an official reprint, and it's also been signed by the actors, so it's special to me for many reasons.
It's amazing. I've seen it in person. It's so good.
Incredible.
The color choices with this speed poster and the overall elements that they've chosen to represent Monster Zero makes this my favorite poster, not just of my favorite poster with Ghidrah, but my favorite kaiju poster sort of all time is this one here. So there you go.
Interesting.
Leslie,
that the Mysterian satellite up there, right? The satellite from Mysterians.
They put that in a lot of things, don't they? They love that.
And then reused in King Kong versus Godzilla US version as the satellite for Rodrigo and Fonda.
They just love that satellite. It's just they're sci-fi image. Sci-fi image.
They're like, hey, this works. Stock footage.
Excellent.
What's that?
And real quick, Kyle's first choice, the GMK poster. Put that up 1 second. That they put that right back up.
Can I put that back up? Let's see.
If y'all don't know, Yuji Sakai and Kyoto did a model kit of this very poster. So I actually don't think Baragon's in it. I don't think Baragon is in it.
Yeah.
I think it's the other monsters, but it's the title monsters, but it's essentially the exact pose of this poster. And I think that's pretty damn cool when it transcends to physical 3D model from the artwork and the actual poster for the film. So I just wanted to point that out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love that
wonderful
halo in the background. It's so good.
Good choice.
All right, Leslie. You're up, man.
And again, it was hard because, and me and Jonathan were talking about this afternoon. If you wanted to include like the VHS covers, like that would have been cool too. Like the Monster Zero one, where Godzilla's and is on Planet X and Ghidorah's flying above him. I love that one. Or the artistic one, where he shows Godzilla and Rodan. Godzilla's all green and Rodan is all red fighting. Yeah, that one. What Jonathan has. Or how about the Jeff Zorno piece on Destroy All Monsters? I love that poster,
Great poster, great art. Yeah.
Great artwork. But these are my top three. Number three, again, I make no apologies for loving this movie. And this poster is epic. But from 1972, Godzilla vs. Gigan, and just seeing just Godzilla and Anguirus and Gigan and Ghidorah looming on top of all. Oh God, that is. Oh yeah,
That's a great poster.
Epic poster.
Again, say what you will about Ghidorah and his performance, but that poster is like.
There.
It might be one of those rare occasions where the poster is actually better than the movie itself. I want to argue that, you know.
I agree. It's beautiful.
I love the music notes again in the bottom there.
Yeah,
it's got all the elements. It's perfect.
It's perfect. But again, Ghidorah just looming on the background. Like I love how he's flying above everybody versus him being in the background, being all big. It makes him appear a lot more majestic than he actually was in the movie, ironically. But yeah, that's number 3 for me. Number 2, Kyle mentioned earlier, the artistic poster of GMK. Again, like when you look at this, of course you see the show of Baragon. Yep. To me, that Mothra is Heisei, and to me that Ghidorah looks very Heisei-ish, you know, maybe Grand King Ghidorah-ish, if you will.
Yeah,
and it's like that is what I wanted from the movie. Like again, I don't hate the GMK Ghidorah, but when I saw him in the movie, I was like, wait a minute, that's not what we got on the poster.
That's when you see the poster, you're like, oh, like a little bit.
You know what? Because that. You know what? Because that's been my argument with GMK, and that's why, again, I love GMK. And oh my God, I hope Sandra ain't watching. But that's one of the reasons why GMK is in my top 10. But it's like it falls in the latter half. Because I don't agree with the sentiment that they had to dumb down Ghidorah and Mothra to make Godzilla look more badass. I'm like, if you would have kept them the same, like the bigger incarnations of their older personas, and still have Godzilla go through them, you would still get to the same conclusion. Like you didn't have to dumb down Mothra and Ghidorah for Godzilla's benefit because he didn't need it, in my opinion. But yeah, this poster, this poster is really, really, really epic. And as a matter of fact, all the posters from GMK are really epic. Like the one where Godzilla is looming in the background and you have the faces of all 3 monsters posting him on his side. Like that's a good one. Or the one where Godzilla.
Can I just say real quick that photo poster you're talking about? There's a lot of photo posters out there, especially from the Heisei era and into the Millennium series, that are just kind of like they're okay, but I don't know who did the GMK one, but design wise, as a designer, I can say that I absolutely appreciate the composition of that image. I wish I had it.
Yes.
Available to show, but the way that the monsters are arranged and the human characters are arranged, and it's sort of all kind of like going down and getting a little bit smaller. I really, really thought about putting that in my poster images because it's such an incredibly good, actually like conceptually designed poster, and it reminds me of the photo posters and how the photo posters from the Gamera series are done as well, which are very, very good too. So anyway, thank you. That's my TED Talk.
Yeah. But yeah, that's number 2 for me. And number 1, again, David, you know, we love this film unapologetically. And this poster to me is like, I think the best that the film had to offer. Now, there's the other one where Godzilla and Ghidorah are in where they battle at Shinjuku, right? Or was it Shinjuku where the tax building is, right?
Yeah.
And Godzilla's
so.
Godzilla is in the foreground and Ghidorah is in the background, you know, and he's hovering on top of Godzilla. That's a great poster. But right here with, you know, him being entangled with Ghidorah with the lightning bolts and the red background is awesome. So I mean, this poster is just brings the movie to you. So those are my top 3. Again, Gigan from 72, GMK, the artistic GMK, and this poster right here is my number 1.
Did you guys know that the tax tower where they have the big battle in this movie is now the actual place? It's an existing building, obviously. You can now go watch a projection mapped Godzilla short.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
really. That's awesome.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's cool. They do it every weekend. Like as soon as it gets dark, it's like every hour they do it, and it's the one that they just had when Helmy was out here at the beginning of the month was like Godzilla fighting Super X2, and then at the end, the 93 Mechagodzilla sort of shows up. But they just changed it just last night. The very first second version of this came out. I'm going to go see it soon. So,
that's
anyway.
awesome. You know what's cool, you guys? Before we continue, we all chose different posters except for Kyle and Leslie have one crossover. We all chose completely different. Might have been the same film, but different posters. And I think that's pretty cool that we all. But again, I think all of us loved each other's choices too, because they just know how to do it, man. And again, if you don't have Sean's book, get it, because if you like this chat and you're interested in these posters and seeing more of them, Kyle's going to hold it up because he's got it right there. It's an amazing book. I think it's out of print. I think it's out of print, but I think you can still get it on eBay or something. It is the most.
You can get there's two versions. The one is like a paperback, and that one is more readily available. I've seen it has like Gamera on the cover and stuff, but this one is definitely out of print.
The hardcover's out of print, I think, though, right?
Yeah, the hardcover is out of print.
It's inspirational,
so good.
and it's just I find myself leafing through that, more often than not, because I think it's just so epic and cool. So anyway, cool guys. What's next, Leslie?
All right, here we go. Again, we'll be talking more so about the monster, but you know what? I know all of us here in particular, we are huge fans of a solid human story when it comes to a kaiju film. And so this question veers off into that direction. But what are your top 3 favorite human/alien characters that were involved in the Ghidorah movie? Jonathan, go.
Okay. This one I didn't really have. It wasn't that hard to really think about for me because it was immediate thought, like 3 that came to mind. And the first one obviously is probably going to be a no-brainer to a lot of people. It is Mr. Nick Adams himself from Monster Zero. Just if you want to talk about not only acting, but someone coming in internationally, an American actor coming into a Japanese production as like this, and totally not only buying into the product and in the film and the narrative and the character, but buying into the story and the premise and everything about it, just fully committing to it in a way that you garnered everyone's respect. And you did such a great job. You actually became like really good friends with a lot of these people, and you got along with them really well, as opposed to someone else who I will not mention, who did not do as much of a job at that. But I will say Nick Adams, he's an iconic character. His Glenn character is so iconic in Monster Zero. And one of my favorite characters of the Showa era. And he just everything. One of my favorite lines in the movie, and I know Kyle is like snickering over there. He's probably thinking of it right now. One of my favorite lines in the movie is, well, it's one of the lines. He's like, "We're not robots, we're not robots." Line, but then there's the "You rats, you stinking rats! What did you do to her?" Like the way he delivers that line is it is hammy and it's very 60s, but like it's full of so much emotion that it really like puts you in that scene, in that character, in that moment. And it's really heavy in that way. I love Nick Adams. I love Glenn. He's a top tier human character for me in these films. Next one is one that I had a huge crush on. I still have a huge crush on, had a huge crush when I was a kid. And I just thought she was badass. And I also loved her, not only in this film, but also in Ultra 7, which is ironically another one of my favorite pieces of media out there. Miss Yuriko Hishimi is one of my favorite starlets, actresses, badasses of the Tokusatsu era. Her character in this movie, she's just fun. She's just a great personality, a funny character, giving, the main character such a hard time. Giving him such a hard time on like everything he does, but also, Kyle, I think your audio is muted or it's dropped out. I can't hear you. But
you Mama Gun,
you Mama Gun, right? But is Goro, right? His name is Goro.
Yes.
The artist.
Yes.
She gives him such a hard time. It's so funny. Like I just love their dynamic.
No, it's Genko. His name. Genko.
Genko. Okay, my bad. I'm terrible. I'm terrible with names. But Also, she's such a great character, but then she's even better when like they're put into a situation, they're backed into a corner, and she like brings out her, you know, her karate and whatever, and it like just totally like takes out those dudes. I love everything about her.
She does steal the show. She does steal the show.
And even Janelle would say her outfit, love her outfit. Like where do you get that? Like such 70s sort of look. I love it. It's so psychedelic and so
what happened to Kyle?
Times. I don't know. Kyle.
There he is.
You know,
there he is. Hey.
He's back.
All right, cool.
He was so smitten by Yuriko Hashimi. He had to speak.
I had to take a minute, guys.
Take a minute.
I love her very much. We got to have dinner with her.
We had dinner with her in her Chinese restaurant.
Jealous.
Yes. She was delightful.
I love it. And I love her. She's great. But aside from that, you know what's funny? I actually forget what my third one was. So Kyle, can you please help me out? I'm blanking from it. It's funny because I'm saying that you're top three, and I forget the third one. My God.
Okay, there's so
like,
many.
I'm just having a mind blank. It's so much stimulation here right now. Oh yes. Okay. So I not only do I love this character, but I also love that he made a return, as the professor in '84. But he's another one of the guys that I just think like gets so into the role and plays it so well, and he like totally commits 100%. Like his dynamic with the princess and Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster, and his will just is such a genuinely good dude, right? Just like wanting to do the right thing and going all out to do the right thing, but like being also a respectful human being, regardless of his feelings or whatever. Just like I'm gonna be the guy. I'm gonna be the savior. His dynamic with another one of my crushes of the era, his sister. I just love that dynamic. Oddly that she's playing a reporter again, but that's okay. When I was a kid, I always looked at them as the same character, but even though they're not, for some reason, I was always like, yeah, this is like she's just playing her role, but we never saw her family. I don't know. It was a weird thing, but I love the detective. I love his role in this movie. I just love him as a character. He's always been one that that jumps to my mind. And those are my three.
He's a good-looking dude too, Detective Shindo.
He's very, very dashing, Detective Shindo. Very dashing.
Dashing young.
Yosuke Natsuki.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but she would have been pregnant before she got on that plane at the end of the movie. I'm sorry. I would have smashed that before she got on that plane. She would have been pregnant. I'm going with you, baby.
Exactly. My goodness gracious.
It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, say what you want about all the other Toho actresses, but Akiko Wakabayashi, meow.
Well, why don't we start, Kyle? Why don't we start with her for my choice, because that's the perfect segue, don't you think?
Perfect segue.
It is. Let me
now
get these actors up here.
Even though I'm batting for the other team, I had a crush on her too. You know what I'm saying? So she transcends all of that stuff because she's just so freaking beautiful and charming and classy. I still kind of got a crush on her. So, anyway, Wakabayashi-san is so good in this role of King Ghidrah. I think one of the most epic moments in any show is when she's on the table and she's under the hypnosis and they think she's under, and then all of a sudden she abruptly sits up and she gives this speech, talking about how this monster devastated Mars, even though it's Venus in the Japanese version. And one of the characters, I think it's Yuriko Hoshi, says, it would be terrible if he came here. And then the close up of her face, he's here already. I'm like, oh, and then it's like, damn, that to me. And she is the harbinger. She's the one that warns Earth that this monster is coming. And it's just so great, such great storytelling. And again, anybody who says Godzilla, you don't watch these movies for the characters, I say nonsense, because these characters are just as interesting as the monsters, I think. And
Agreed.
there is a lot going on in Ghidra, the three-headed monster. There's a lot of subplots and things, but they all kind of tie together and they all work. And she is a Bond babe. That's right. She is. Yep. And her name in the Bond film is Kissy Suzuki.
I think that's actually
that's the other one, right?
No. Character. No, Miyahama is the one that he marries, essentially. Oh yeah, you're right. He married. She dies. Spoiler alert. She gets killed. And yeah, Kissy Suzuki is Miyahama, who actually he marries.
Yeah, I think her character's name is Aki.
Aki. That's right. Sorry, my bad. I just got too excited and ahead of myself. But yes, both of those Toho women are in You Only Live Twice, my favorite James Bond film. So yeah, so she's my number one choice, or number 3 choice. There's no order. They're all great. Okay. Now, Kyle, maybe help me out. I don't know the actress's name who plays the Keelok Queen, the leader of
Kyoko Ai.
Kyoko Ai. Yes, of course, Kyoko Ai. Now, she is not necessarily has a huge role in the film. However, she's the one, again, the harbinger. She brings King Ghidrah to Earth.
Makes it count, though.
What's that?
She makes it count, though.
She makes it count, and she's kind of sinister in her sort of. I mean, it's hard to get the nuances from the Japanese version, but in the American dub, the AIP dub, let me make that quite clear. She's very sinister and a matter of fact and deadpan when she delivers her lines, which is absolutely perfect for this like alien. And she's almost kind of at the end, she's almost kind of giddy, like, you guys are bleeped, they're
full of themselves. They just think they have it in the bag.
Yeah. You guys can just call us when you're ready to surrender. Basically she's like sitting back, like call us when you're ready to surrender. And then, Godzilla, puts a foil on that. But I love her. She's again, and now I took this question, Leslie, as someone who is sort of in cahoots or with King Ghidrah, especially, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily just in the film, but someone who is an integral part in the monster part of the movie. So that's why I kind of narrowed, I laser focused on my characters, but I love her too. I guess she's number 2. Of course, number 1, Tsuchiya-san is the quirky actor who is perfect to play, eccentric actor to play the controller of Planet X. And again, seeing him as a little boy, I was like, man, this guy's badass. His glasses and his outfit and his pointy shoes. And just, again, my first movie, and the first time I heard the word King Ghidorah be uttered was by this man right here. Well, actually, no, Nick Adams said it first, but he said it right after. And again, he just commands that film, and he's just so perfect. And to sit in a room with Tsuchiya-san, with Kyle during the Hail to the King, awesome documentary, was just like, for me, it doesn't get any better than that. And he was I'd say out of every guest that Kyle interviewed during that time, he was the most engaged and like stoked. And he would things would pop up in his memory that I guess he had forgotten about. But again, totally pulled the fast one on Earth. He brought King Ghidrah here. And when he would discover that they lost control of Ghidrah and the other monsters, he lost it. And then it's just such good storytelling and acting. Even the dubbed version transcends to that. And again, there's certain films in the Showa series that, I tend to go to the US dubbed versions, especially around the holidays for some reason. Because they're, and again, that's why I asked in our group, the Red Menace, whatever, that whole thing. But I love the original Titra American International dubbed tracks to these films. And again, this, it's the same studio that did Ultraman 2, the Ultraman TV series. And Jonathan, you played the little clip of King Ghidrah. That was actually the Science Patrol's phone sound too. Yeah, Science Patrol phone rang. It was King Ghidrah, And
That's how it's listed in the
so
sound effects too.
Even as a little kid, I
King
knew.
Ghidrah calling.
Yep. I knew there
Little
was some
chirps.
kind of a connection even before I saw the Giraff episode, and I didn't realize Baragon, showed up in many different incarnations. But I knew there was a connection between Ultraman and Godzilla from the phone, the King Ghidorah sound effect on the telephone. So those are mine. There's so many to choose from. I love all of them. And Leslie, what do you got?
No, it's Kyle.
Oh, sorry, Kyle. Sorry, my bad. Kyle, what do you got?
Okay, man.
Over here.
What do I got? Well,
What do you
I had a hard time choosing, honestly. Especially because we're talking about Ghidrah movies. There's so many with Ghidrah. Like, how do you pick which characters to choose? And we've already talked about some of these, so I will just go ahead and say, one of my crushes, Akiko Wakabayashi. She is great in Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster, and her character arc, split character arc, I guess I would say, like where she is the princess, then all of a sudden she is the Venusian survivor, and like warning everybody. I love her warnings. I like the fact that she shows up and people are like, it's that bum. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like hilarious to me. Like, when actually the moment when Yuriko Hoshi's character brings her to the hotel, and then she walks up to the front desk, and the guy behind the front desk is giving her the old like, I don't think we serve their kind here. And
no, he actually
like hilarious to me.
His line is, "Are you doing a story on vagabonds today?" Or something like that. Something to that effect. I mean, he straight up says it. I mean, the look on his face is one thing, but he straight up said,
the shade. Anyway, she's great. There's something I actually don't know how many people know. Probably everybody is like, yeah, duh, about this, but something I didn't realize until many watchings into like Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster is like when she becomes the alien, she does not blink. Her character never blinks as an alien.
Oh, interesting.
So when they talked about that in Final Wars many, many years later, I was like, oh, that's a callback to the original Ghidrah the Three-Headed Monster. Anyway,
love it.
Moving on. Shiharu Niyama. Okay, this is the lead from from Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. And the reason I wanted to talk about her is because she's not your typical actress. I think she might have been like a J-pop star, and Kaneko found her and asked her to be part of the production. She was not, and that's why she'd never seen her in any of the other Godzilla movies. But man, oh man, I feel like when everybody started talking about Godzilla -1, and we were talking about how much the cast was able to connect with the audience, which I totally agree with. The only other actress that I've really ever felt that I could really understand them from multiple angles, and like I totally got what they're saying. Whenever they're talking about stuff, I am just on the edge of my mental seat listening to what they're saying, has been her character from GMK. Like, it's following her along her journey in that film is really what makes that movie like as impactful from a storytelling point of view. And I really applaud the director Shusuke Kaneko. I absolutely applaud Niyama-san's performance as Yuriko, I think is her name. But yeah, really, really love her character. I love her relationship with her father.
Yes.
I love her ambition. She wants to be taken seriously as like a reporter, and she wants to elevate BS Digital Q above the schlock that everybody feels it is. There's so much going on in this movie. I need to dive back into the commentary stuff that I used to do with the Kaiju Cast and like really give GMK the full-blown Gamera 2 Advent of Legion style treatment, because it's a wonderful film and it's filled with all sorts of like weird differences from the other Godzilla series. And anyway, her performance in that movie is so good. So big fan. Would love to meet her someday, actually. And last but not least, the man, the myth, the legend, Yoshio Tsuchiya. Really, like David touched on it earlier, he was sort of like a quirky, weird guy who really like he believed in aliens, and he wanted to portray aliens more so than portraying humans. So like,
Yes.
You know, he's the lead Mysterian in that movie, The Mysterians, and he came up with a bunch of the stuff, not just in Monster Zero where he's doing the, you know, the hand motions. He came up with the weird stilted way the Mysterians talk in the Mysterians. Like, this guy was dedicated to his craft. And if you didn't know, he was also one of Akira Kurosawa's main players. He's in Seven Samurai and I think in a few other of his popular movies. Really, and of course, I don't have a picture of it, but he comes back in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah to play Shindo.
And I love that character.
During the interview that David mentioned earlier, where we were sitting around in this Nakano Sun Plaza conference room, there was a moment where I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I think Akira Takarada, right, from Monster Zero and so many movies, I should say the original Godzilla, but Akira Takarada was talking about how he always wished that he had a role where he could visually connect with Godzilla and they would share a moment. And Yoshio Tsuchiya's like, oh yeah, I had that role. I had that moment. They totally had a measuring contest in that interview. It was pretty damn funny. It was a wonderful moment, a happy moment, I guess you could say. But yeah, awesome. Tsuchiya, without a doubt, is absolutely, like, there's so many good things to say about that man. When he passed away, I guess it was probably about 5 years ago now. Like, I was really upset that I didn't get a chance to have like a dedicated interview with him, because what a character, what a presence, and what a controller. What's a controller?
Yeah. He so loved what he did. It came across. If you haven't seen the documentary, watch it and you'll understand what Kyle and I are saying. He was so enthused, and he was so surprised that we in a different country still revere and remember these films and these actors. And you know, his face was just like lit up when we were talking about it, and it was really sort of a next level moment for me personally. Oh, there he is, Mr. Shindo. Great scene, by the way. And I'm really mad at the way that scene turned out. I don't think Godzilla should have done that. Nope, I don't like that. I would have changed that one.
What a twist!
All right,
that's another story.
That's another story. Okay, so Mr. Chambers.
Okay, 3 characters. Again, it was hard. Going from 3 to 1. These are the ones that I connect on that resonate with me whenever I do watch them. Number 3 is from 91, and it's not Shindo, ironically. It's actually Emmy. Emmy from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. I think Emmy in a lot of ways gets overshadowed by Shindo, and that's understandable because Shindo was an awesome character with a great story arc, a tragic one in fact. But I think Emmy is kind of an underrated character. She doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. I mean, of course, she's part of the plan with the Futurians at the beginning, but then she has a change of heart and realize that's not what she wants to do. She wants to save her country. And I really got behind that change of heart, and how they realized that, you know, they made this Godzilla even more brutal and more horrific in a way that she took it upon herself to go up against Godzilla. I think she's the first woman to really duke it out with Godzilla. You know, she's in a kaiju with Mecha King Ghidrah, but I just love that drive where she just didn't care. She wanted to save her country no matter what. She knew the odds were not in her favor, but she did go up against Godzilla. Not many females can say that. You know, I kind of can say that from ex Mecha Godzilla, Suji Mori from Mega Gearus, right, David?
Yes, indeed.
But Emmy, I thought that she was really a cool character, and it's kind of sad because you know she died of cancer a long time ago, so she's no longer with us, unfortunately. But again, even though she and again she gets kind of overshadowed by Shindo, I think that she is the second best character in that movie. You know what I'm saying? So I want to give my flowers to Emmy from '91.
Shout out to Anne Nakagawa.
Yes.
Emmy.
Yes.
Emmy.
And number two, it would be obviously Nick Adams. Again, he's like, and I know Jonathan didn't want to say his name, but damn it, I'm going to say it. Russ Tamblyn. I'm sorry. Nick Adams proved that, you know, he embraced it. He embraced the lore. He embraced the mythology. He embraced these cheesy monster movie, you know. And with Monster Zero in particular, you know, they were veering off into really more wacky territory. But still, Nick Adams, he still played it straight. He didn't treat it like a joke. He didn't come across half-assed like Russ Tamblyn, you know.
He didn't phone it in.
He didn't phone it in.
Nope.
You know, it's a shame we didn't see him in more Godzilla films at the time. But in a lot of ways, he is like, from a human standpoint, he is the star of that movie. With all due respect to Takarada, with all due respect to Tsuchiya-san, is really Nick Adams' energetic performance that really carries Monster Zero from a human perspective. Because really, that film has a more engaging human story than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Because the monsters, it's great to see them, but the monsters kind of take a back seat. But you know what? The human story and alien story is so engaging that you don't really care that the monsters are not around as they should be. But with Nick Adams leading the charge for that, you know, it makes the film a really worthwhile movie with the monsters not around. So kudos to Nick Adams for making that happen.
Nice choice.
And number one, again, I agree with David. The Princess Salno from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Her performance is so cool. And what's so cool in relation to Ghidorah, whenever she talks about the oncoming events involving Godzilla and Rodan in particular, she has that blank look on her face, like Rodan is in the volcano beneath the crust, he's about to come out, or that ship should not sail. Just has that blank look. But, and it's a cool thing about these actresses and actors, they can do something with their performance with the facial expression or whatever. But when she's in the doctor's office and she rises up, when you see her talk about Ghidorah, like her eyes get really super serious. Yep. It's like her tone as when she talks about Ghidorah is so different than when she talked about Rodan and Godzilla. It's like she is more super serious about Ghidorah. Basically saying, yes, Godzilla and Rodan, they're terrible. And yes, they can take out a country, but this monster, he can take out the entire world. The whole world. Like, y'all have no idea what's coming. You have no idea what's coming. And matter of fact, he's already here. And when she looks like that, it's like, that's like an, that's when it got real moment. When she said he's already here, it's like, what? Here. And it's like that look on her face when she is so super serious. And she's like, again, you have no idea what y'all in for. That is what puts it over the top for me. It's my favorite character from a Ghidorah movie. Again, watch the film. Again, when she talks about the events involving Rodan and Godzilla coming, she's like one way with a blanket stare. But when she refers to Ghidorah, she got her eyes like really super, super laser focused, trying to tell you death is coming. It's coming. So I really do enjoy that. So those are my top three. Again, Emmy, Nick Adams, and Princess Salno. And we got pretty much, you know, it's at the 2 hour mark. And we got like maybe 3 more questions, and that's gonna be it for this show. Thank you so much for everybody still hanging in with us. Really do appreciate it. With the next question, I guess we could be brief with this, and then the next question we can be a little bit more long-winded. But I guess yes or no, Would you like to see Ghidorah in a sequel set in the -1 universe? Jonathan, go.
No, I would not like to, because Ghidrah's, I mean, with the exception of, well, yeah, I mean, Ghidrah's always been like either a supernatural entity or most famously and most consistently a outer space, you know, an extraterrestrial entity. I just think that what the world they're building, if there is a world they're building with -1, it should be homegrown. It should be something grown of the earth, something that exists. I would liken it to bring another one in, another monster or another mutation that hasn't gotten a lot of spotlight, like a Varan or a Baragon or something along those lines, or an Angulus. Maybe do like a Raids Against sort of homage. I don't know. But a Ghidrah, I just don't think fits in the grander. And if Yamazaki and they want to write it and it works, then I'll be happy. But when I immediately think of Ghidrah, I don't think that Ghidrah just fits in this -1 world. And that's just what I have to say about it. David.
I'm going to completely disagree with you, Jonathan, because but I'm going to go about it a different way. I don't think that King Ghidorah should be in the next Godzilla film. I think he needs his standalone film, just like Rodan needs a standalone film and Mothra needs a standalone film. I know it's not the popular opinion. Again, I love the origin stories. We've already seen Godzilla's origin story. We don't even have to have Godzilla. Godzilla still could be reforming in the ocean, right? And then, Yamazaki could do a King Ghidorah origin story, like the meteorite comes to Earth, and go from there. And I would love to see a very serious, dark King Ghidorah, because like many of us said, he is my second favorite monster aside from Godzilla. So I would love to see a treatment of a standalone King Ghidorah film in this new universe of serious period films. Or it doesn't have to be of that period. They can fast forward to like the space age, so that they could tie that in, like maybe go to the 60s, like when man is venturing into outer
cool
space.
Idea.
And that's how they encounter King Ghidorah out there, and then he follows him back to Earth. But I would love to see one of my favorite monsters involved in this new serious, amazing, I can't believe they're doing this universe. So yeah, I would. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a versus film, a standalone film. I don't know how big at box office that would be, and I know that's a big factor, but it would be really nice to see, or even at the end, just have the meteor come or something like that. I would love to see it personally. So that's my answer.
All right. So
Kyle.
I would say, first up, I love your answer, David, because I would definitely back the concept of let's do some standalone kaiju films as opposed to, hey, Godzilla's coming back with another monster. That said, Yamazaki already has said he would like to direct a movie where Godzilla's fighting another monster. But on the flip side of that, I feel like my issues with the Godzilla -1 design were that it was essentially the same design used in Godzilla the Ride. And what I would be afraid of is that if Yamazaki brings Ghidrah into the fold, he'd basically be like, hey, look, I've already got the Ghidrah design, and I don't like that design.
No, I don't like that either. No. If that's the case, no.
Yeah. So I would rather not see Ghidrah at least yet. Like, it seems, but I love the idea of, moving into the space race time period of actual history and then reforming some Godzilla concepts around the space race and around the whole like launch of not just like trying to get to the moon, but like other NASA like entities in that at that time. That would be a really cool kind of way to take it. And I don't know. I know Yamazaki, he like really specializes in the sort of like biting nostalgia of the Showa era, but I would love to see his take on, you know, the early 60s too, in terms of like how they were imagining the future at that time. So undecided, I guess, is my answer. Yeah.
You know,
No, that's
David,
perfect.
you brought up a good point with the space race in the 60s and all that. I love that idea. In contrary to what I said, I just don't think it would work for a direct sequel. I think it'd be too out of left field. I think they should save that if they're going to want to do that for building an actual universe.
I can get
but not
behind
an actual like direct like
right.
Hey,
and
this is
like
we're going to Space Dragons all of a sudden.
fair
It
enough.
would
No,
be too weird for me. But I love that like the space race. That would totally make sense.
I see what
Kyle,
you're saying.
your whole thing, I totally didn't even think about that. The
And
design aspect, that would be, I don't know.
Yamazaki did an interview on one of the supplementals of one of the discs. I have so many of the different versions of the discs of the -1 disc. And he had said to an interviewer that he is interested in bringing an international cast into a future film. So I think the space race is all the different countries. You get a Russian, you get an American, you know, Chinese or whatever, because, you know, Sputnik and all that was that same period. So if it's going to be a direct, all right, let me rephrase that. If it's a direct sequel right after the events of -1, then maybe it's not suited for that. But if he wants to do it later on in the series or jump ahead, which he can totally do, and say, hey, let's set this next movie, you know, not ignore what happened in 1954 or whenever that, I forget the exact time that -1 was the 40s.
It was 47.
Yeah, 47. Let's do this film. Let's focus around the space race in the 60s, you know, when Kennedy was president, and include an international cast, which he had said that he wanted to do. So yes, I understand your point, and I kind of agree with it. But in the future, let me say, in the future, I'd love to see King Ghidorah in this universe. Okay, how's that?
That would be neat. That would be really cool.
Okay, cool.
It's your turn, Leslie.
Short answer, yes, but not right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, not right now. I think that the -1 universe is such a gritty, self-contained world that something like Ghidorah may upset that in terms of its believability. And I don't want anything to rock the boat in terms of how well this series of movies, if we all can get a series of -1 movies, I don't want anything to upset that. You know what I'm saying? Because at some point they're gonna bring Ghidorah back. You know, it's just, I think, again, let's just keep it grounded right now, and then when the time comes when it starts to veer off into, you know, more uncharted territory, if there's a need for it, then bring Ghidorah back, but not right now. Yes, but not right now.
Okay.
All right.
Answer. I like it.
All right. 2 more questions, then that's it. All right. The last question involving Ghidorah and the films, and the next question is going to be about our top 3 favorite Ghidorah collectibles. Before we get to that, point blank, what is your overall opinion involving the legacy of King Ghidorah? Jonathan, go.
One of the greatest kaiju of all time. One of the greatest enemies and most infamous enemies that Godzilla's ever faced. Like you said earlier, Leslie, and it's so very true. He's like the Joker to Batman. You know, you can name any big legacy character from any big franchise, and Ghidrah would be right up there at number 1, I think. Because honestly, I mean, look at the longevity that Ghidrah's lasted. Whenever they felt like they needed a safe space to get back financially in terms of the gains of the box office, whatever, they resorted to King Ghidrah.
That's
and
true.
Why wouldn't they? Look what happened after Biollante. They reverted back to the classics. Who was their first choice? It was Ghidrah. What happened in the 60s throughout? When they needed a big baddie, especially an extraterrestrial, with the exception of Mechagodzilla, it was Ghidrah and Ghidorah. You know, with the exception of those two, it was mainly Ghidrah that would always come back. Gigan they brought Ghidrah back with Gigan because they probably didn't feel confident in just having Gigan by itself. I mean, look at GMK, the original idea for the story, Vron and Baragon, and look what we ended up with, Ghidrah and Mothra, right? Whenever they wanted a confident boost, they chose Ghidrah. So they kind of were trying to gauge the pulse of not only their audience, but also of the character itself. I just think Ghidrah has a long-lasting legacy of longevity and respect among kaiju fans. That's what I would say.
Cool. So King Ghidrah's legacy so far has had its ups and downs. Started off really strong. I love the origin. I love the design. Goes back to the Japanese and Asian mythology of dragons, and incorporates outer space and all that kind of thing. A few missteps along the way, kind of lost its way here and there, but the legacy is still strong. And like Jonathan said, it's always a welcome addition to any Godzilla film. And just watching the supplemental footage from -1 and how they did so much with so little money, and they resorted to a lot of practical effects and enhanced them with CGI, which is the way I think all movies should be, all fantasy science fiction movies should be, because that's the way to do it. I am so excited to see what the future will bring with this type of technology to bring King Ghidorah to life now. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be epic, and I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to do it right. You have a little bit of tokusatsu suit action enhanced by CGI, and just please stay true to King Ghidorah's origins and his intention and the vibe that we've all come to love over these many years, these 60 years. And I look forward to seeing the next incarnation from Toho.
You're here,
Kyle.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Ghidorah's legacy is, I'd say it's pretty much unmatched. This close second would be Mechagodzilla. Both Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla have just been sort of like that constant, and not in a bad way, that constant villain for the Godzilla series. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's a lot of reasons that Ghidrah himself is sort of a wind, like what Jonathan's talking about, right? Like he's easy to peg as a villain and a foil for Godzilla. So to me, I think that it kind of makes sense to have Ghidrah being the bad guy in a future Godzilla movie. His legacy is secure, and I think that really. Let me just play a little video while I do this. So this is the making of Ghidrah footage.
Yes.
Wow.
So Ghidrah is he's always going to be Godzilla's biggest foe, because every single other monster that comes around, everyone, including Mechagodzilla, becomes an ally in some sense of the word.
He's never been
to Godzilla. And Ghidrah, even when Ghidrah was a good guy, Godzilla was the bad guy,
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like he's sort of Ghidrah, the character, while some of it has changed, like he's always going to be that Joker to the Batman, as we talked about. I just really like, I don't know, I would love to see more Ghidrah in the future, but what Jonathan alluded to, Toho saying, this is our guaranteed moneymaker, so they changed the characters. That's where it goes a little too far, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, I don't want to change the character. No, I don't want to change the character.
Yeah. Oh, but I just mean like, I would like to see Ghidrah return as long as it makes sense. And I say that about a lot of Godzilla stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm down for X, Y, and Z as long as it really makes sense. And so,
fair enough.
Ghidrah, your legacy is secure as far as I'm concerned. Everybody loves you. And I can't wait to show off the toys that I have.
Me too.
In just a second. But Leslie, what do you think about?
Incidentally, this footage is outstanding. It's so cool. I love it. I'm loving this. This is so great. And I have to shout out the fanciest of cats. He cracked me up. -1, more like +3. I'll show myself out now. That would be funny if they called it +3. That's -1 +3. But anyway, good footage.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chambers.
It's ironic that this footage that you're showing, this is when they really, for the first time, publicly acknowledged that Godzilla was a guy in a suit. Yep. For the first 4 films, they try to make the monsters feel like they were actually real characters. But this display, this exhibition, if you will, was the first time they publicly acknowledged that Godzilla were actors in suits, and that's why they got their names in the credits, towards the tail end of the credits and stuff, which is still cool. I'm not knocking it, but it's bound to happen at some point. But I think King Ghidorah's legacy, ironically, no pun intended, is golden. You know what I'm saying? It's golden.
Nice.
And when you think about monsters that have really changed the game, and that term has been so overused for a lot of different reasons, But Ghidrah really at the time was a game changer of a monster. Before he came along, all the monsters that appeared in the Godzilla films or even outside of Godzilla films from Toho, they were either prehistoric creatures that got awakened by a nuclear explosion, Godzilla, Rodan, Anguirus, or they were already giant creatures that were worshipped like gods, Varan, King Kong, Mothra. But Ghidorah was the first monster that bucked the trend that he was none of those things. He was an outer space evil entity, which opened the door for other outer space threats and outer space races that would come to Earth, and Ghidorah was the start of that. And that basically would be the majority of the Showa series after that point. And it's kind of hard to think about the Showa series without those outer space stories, But Ghidrah really was the door that really opened that, you know what I'm saying? So not just for him being a monster, but just for those stories of, outer space aliens and outer space monsters and outer space threats that Godzilla became the de facto babyface that would defend the Earth, All that goes back to Ghidrah. So we owe a lot to Ghidrah for that. And yes, there have been some times where he has been overused. There have been some times where maybe they could have used somebody else. Maybe they kind of flubbed on his origin in certain movies or designs or whatever. But no matter how you slice it, the reason why they go back to Ghidorah is because how much of an awesome, successful monster that he has. And so why wouldn't you? So you can blame them, but then again, you can't blame them in a lot of respects. And Ghidorah could have been like so many other monsters back in the day. Just one of those monsters that have 1 or 2 appearances and then they just disappear. But Ghidorah is kind of like an anti-Godzilla in a lot of ways. Godzilla also has been in a lot of movies where he's been this character or that character. Some designs work, some designs don't work, some stories work, some stories don't work. And Ghidorah follows that same path. But again, I think Godzilla is so successful as long as he has great dancing partners to go along with him. And the top of the list, to me, in my opinion, even though I'm a huge King Kong fan, it's got to be King Ghidorah. So with that being said, I think his legacy, you can't have one without the other one. It's kind of hard to have Godzilla without King Ghidorah. And that says a lot how important King Ghidorah is, in my opinion.
Well said. Well said.
So with that being said, again, this is Collect All Monsters. So we got one more thing we're going to do before we go. We're a collectible show. And of course, we're all huge fans of King Ghidrah. So we got some great Ghidorah collectibles in our collections. So we're going to tell you our top 3, ironically 3, favorite King Ghidorah collectibles. It could be figures, it could be posters, it could be whatever it is. As long as Ghidorah is involved, these are our top 3 favorite King Ghidorah collectibles. Starting with our resident Ifukube, Jonathan Portman. What you got, sir?
Well, it's funny you said Ifukube because you're teeing out my first item here. So one of my favorite collectibles, it's a fairly more recent one, but I just love the artwork on it. And I love the score. You know that. That's no secret. If I can get this Obi off. So I want to show the whole thing in its entirety. The Godzilla versus King Ghidrah score
Nice.
from Mondo. This art was done by Greg Ruth. And it was mastered for vinyl by Darren Page. This artwork, I mean, it's just stunning.
Wow.
This is the most unique thing I've seen come out from Mondo in terms of their artwork. I think sometimes they can be a little not them, but like the artists can be a little too, and this isn't like a critical bad thing, it's just they could be a little too generic in what they choose to represent. But I think this one's really getting out of the box. We have likeness here. We not only have likeness, but we have it in such a unique way. It's like a sort of like a chalkboard sort of painting or sketch. Almost like it was like you could pull it off of like a rock formation, like a hieroglyphic. I just love it. I love everything about it. That's my first one. Second one is an oldie, but a goodie. It's one of my favorite VHS covers. Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Please ignore the Rodan reference down here. I'm pretty sure he probably forgot what film he was in. That's how his amnesia hit. But basically, I just love everything about the presentation of this. The colors are really unmatched. And we have like really good likeness of the creatures too. Like we have Rodan in the back there. And even the back there with the Exilians here. The Exians, as we like to call them. Tsuchiya there, everyone. I just love everything about this. It speaks to me. I love it. And the final one's a doozy. Yeah?
Me too.
Great one. You know what's funny is I used to like it's a very nostalgic one for me also because I used to go to like Suncoast and seek those out. Like those were ones I always used to love looking for. And used to see them and we'd be a little jealous if I couldn't get it. Like, oh, Mom, Dad, can I have this? So like, we're not today. And I'm like, oh, just like it's like right there. I can see it, but I can't have it. It's fine. Last one is probably the biggest one I have in my collection. It is the Giga Brain King Ghidrah. Black and blue aesthetic here, colorway.
They used to
I love the red eyes here.
Used to be your colors.
It used to be. This was probably one of the first collectibles, aside from the Mecha Godzilla, that I ever got. How fitting, right? These two behemoths of kaiju in terms of famous prestige. But yeah, I just love this one. He goes right up here with everything else. He sits right up here up top. Hopefully, he doesn't fall.
He won't
off.
fall. Don't do it.
There he goes, right up there. Now he's good. He's good. The tail is resting very nicely on the back of the thing. So yeah, those are my three collectibles. David, what do you got?
So segue again for Uncle Dave. I happen to have chosen another color variant of the Giga Brain King Ghidrah. This is, I believe, the second issue of this sculpt. It's the very rare closed mouth glow in the dark orange variant, and I absolutely love this.
Love it.
And I have been on record saying that I think the Giga Brain sculpt of King Ghidrah is one of the best Sofubi sculpts I've ever seen or will ever see. And that's the only reason I'm not really mad at them for not doing anything new. They keep reissuing this in different colorways, and that's okay because it's that good. And, you know, when we did our King Ghidrah week in Collect All Monsters, people were, first of all, thank you everyone who participated in it. That was awesome. And people really showed some of these color variants that I have actually never even seen before. So I know that a couple of them were customs, but some of them were from Giga Brain that were colors that I had never seen before. Anyway, it's a gigantic figure. It's very accurate. It's very just slightly stylized. The proportions are phenomenal. It stands perfectly. I actually double dipped. I have the very first issue, the gold with the silver necks and the open mouths. So I have two. I double dipped on this one. I'm going to keep both these because I love it that much. So the Giga Brain glow in the dark closed mouth King Ghidrah is one of my choices. Now, this one I believe is an underrated King Ghidorah figure.
Oh yeah.
This one is a Marmot Monster Heaven gold glitter version. Now, I don't know if it's going to pick it up, but the glitter on that is
absolutely.
absolutely insane. Okay. And I kind of bought this on a whim, not knowing that it was going to be as awesome as it is. Again, the proportions aren't quite as perfect as the Giga Brain, but they're still pretty good. And this is a really solid sculpt of the Showa King Ghidrah, and I absolutely love it. And now they're kind of ridiculously priced, but I got it for a real good deal several years ago. So I absolutely love this guy. I think Christine has one too. But again, they're really, really, really people's eyes go to this one on my shelf when I bring them in to see the collection. So, and then last but not least, I mean, before I show this, I have to give a shout out to X Plus. X Plus really came through with their King Ghidrahs. It was a long time coming. A lot of us old timers were like jonesing for a King Ghidorah release from X Plus. And then finally, when it came out, the 68 from Destroy All Monsters, it had a myriad of issues with the packaging and the shipping.
With issues, yes.
And I'll never forget Rich Iso doing his unboxing on Fresh Vinyl. And he was all happy. And then he opened the box. He's like, oh. And one of Ghidorah. And because of that, mine had not yet arrived. And I had already seen Kyle's before I got mine. Yours was okay, right? Yours was pretty good.
Mine had like a couple of small issues, but they were easily fixable.
Easy fix. And I saw his, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. But I was so nervous. You can ask Keith. I went to the hobby shop and I got paints to mix together to match the color. I got model glue. I got putty. I got all that stuff. And when the box came, Keith went out. He left me home because he knew if it wasn't right, I was going to be not good. And he knows, and Kyle, you know that too. It would not have been a pretty scene, but I gingerly opened the box and I took the bubble wrap. It was perfect, not one thing, and it made it to California. It made it from California to Washington, and then from Washington to California. Nothing. So I was very careful with my packing. So I got to give a shout out to that. And then they did the beautiful 64 Ghidrahs, which are just like they stepped right out of the movie. I know Leslie's got those, and that's the only X Plus figure that I double dipped on. I have the blue rainbow wings, and I also have the standard one. But the last thing I am going to show is my very first King Ghidorah collectible, and it is the Bandai Showa King Ghidorah with the tag still attached. Now I'm going to quickly tell my story about this that some of you may or may not know. When I was still living in New Jersey, I used to travel into New York and peek in the window of this shop called Children of Paradise on Bleecker Street. And they had a bunch of Bandai figures. And, this is like 1988, 89. And they never had this guy. Next door, there was a video store called Kim's Underground Video, which a lot of the old timer New Yorkers will remember that store. And I went in there on my way home, actually, from a party, and sitting on the cash register were 3 Bandai smaller scale 1984 with tags, and they were $5 each. And I bought one, and then I didn't have any money left. I just had enough to get the train ride home. But behind them on the shelf, there was 3 or 4 of these with the tags. And I just asked the guy for grins, said, how much are those? And he goes, oh, those are $25. And I remember thinking, oh my God, who the hell is going to spend $25 for a plastic toy? Boy, did I eat those words. Like those words tasted so good after I just ate my foot in my mouth, because this was my white whale trying to find this guy. Took me years to track one down. And finally I did. And when we moved from Oakland to Seattle, this was the only figure that was broken in the move. One of the necks snapped off. I guess it got too cold in the cargo and something. But I was smart. I claimed it and I got money for it. And I was able to get this one in better condition with a tag on it. I got this from, can't remember who I got it from, but I got this. And again, it was my white whale. So much so that one night we got drunk at a bar in the East Village, and I noticed that they had one nailed to the top of the bar because this guy had all the stuff up there, and I was going to steal it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I probably would have fallen off the chair, ended up in jail. But I was going to take it because I did ask first if I could buy it, and he said no. And he even had it nailed through the wing. I was willing to take it. That's how bad I wanted it at the time. But this was my white whale, still one of my favorite King Ghidorah collectibles, and I'm so stoked to have it. So sorry that was long-winded, but I had to say that. So Kyle, what are your 3 favorites? I can't wait to see this.
Oh man. Okay. My first favorite Ghidrah collectible. Does this count? Does this 2001 concept variant count? No. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't count, but I love it to pieces.
I'm gonna piggyback off your X Plus comment.
Okay.
I only have a handful of X Plus figures left over after we moved here. I gotta be super careful with this guy because his tail loves to just come off. That magnet is not very strong.
You ain't lying.
But yeah. This is the standard issue.
It's a beauty.
GMK Ghidrah, and it is a stunning sculpt. I cannot remember who did the original
Monster Maker. Monster Maker
28.
28, probably. Yeah.
Beautiful. Very, 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 very beautiful. And nothing busted in the move at all.
Nice.
So he's in very good shape.
Outstanding.
Very happy to have him. He's part of the GMK lineup. Now you can see he's like missing from here. Because he's right there. So that's that. You guys already showed off some of your Gigabrains, so I'm not going to show off the Gigabrain. What I will show off is a recent purchase. I just got this Bullmark reissue.
Nice. Okay.
That has like the blue with the rainbow, and it's sort of like a metallic paint scheme as well. I really like this one as well. I've never had, this is my first representation of this sort of classic Bullmark Marusan sculpt in my collection. Literally just got this guy last month.
Nice.
Okay, so now it's a struggle. What's the next thing do I show you guys? And I think I'm just going to go for the fun one. Yeah. Super 7 has a series of reaction figures. And this is their Ghidrah glow in the dark.
Oh, okay.
Which I picked up.
That's great.
Recently. I really love the color scheme on this.
The glowing.
In fact, generally speaking, I don't collect the Super 7 reaction figures, not for any good real reason. It's just like I already have a majority of the kaiju that they're offering, and like there's something about the reaction style is not for me specifically. I don't love it, but the Ghidrah sculpt is freaking great.
It's really good.
And
in the store.
The fact that it's a glowy, he sits beautifully up on that shelf, and look how tiny he is. He's like very small.
Great.
Definitely not a cumbersome Gigabrain. This thing is huge. But yeah, I love those guys. I also did not show off. I did earlier show off my Ghidrah scales. These are actually Ghidrah scales produced by M1 for the movie. Actual Ghidrah scales.
That's amazing.
There you go. Mr. Chambers, show us your toys.
All right, because y'all know I love collecting Ghidorahs. They're troublesome, but it's so worth it in the end. And my top 3, and this was tough even for me because I love the X Plus ones. I love the X Plus flying one. I love a couple of model kits, but I had to whittle down to the 3. And ironically, number 3 might be surprising, but then again, considering how I've been defending this Ghidorah for the past 2 hours, it shouldn't come no surprise to anybody. But number 3, I want to give a shout out to the Resin Chef 25, I think 30 centimeter resin model kit of King Ghidorah 1972.
I love it. That's great.
Representation.
Yeah, again, there's not too many quality representations of that Ghidorah, and I know putting the word quality and that Ghidorah in the same sentence is kind of like it's kind of productive or oxymoron, if you will. But that kit is really, really cool. And Sorry, Angerus, it won't turn out well for you. But aside from that, this Ghidorah is really, really cool. And so I highly suggest you hit up Resin Chef and get you this kit, and have David or somebody hook it up for you. But again, I know I can't be the only one that actually appreciates this Ghidorah out there. So if you want one,
I like
if you want to spend the money for it,
Is that fur? Is that actual
Real
fur?
fur
Like
on
on the.
isn't it?
yeah, it's like real fur on the
Awesome.
manes on the neck. So, but again, I can't be the only one that appreciate this Ghidorah. So if you want one, hit up Resin Chef and try and get you a copy of this kit. Number two, and I was actually struggling with this today because I knew we were doing the show today, and I actually sat down for like an hour and just looked at both. I'm like David. I have the X Plus 25 centimeter 64 King Ghidra. I have the original one. I have the rig with the multicolors, and I had them both on the table. And I'm just looking at both. I love them both,
Me too.
but I had to pick one. I'm not going to do the whole tie thing because that's cheating. So I had to figure out which one do I love the most. And ironically, it's Ghidorah when I first saw him. So I had to go with the golden. With all due respect to the red, white, and blue, but that golden look like that's
Oh
Ghidorah to me.
yeah.
I
Like,
agree. I agree. That's the quintessential. I should have picked that one.
and in my opinion, that's the best Ghidorah that they've ever done. With all due respect to the
I
68,
agree.
the flying one, Kaiser, GMK, whatever.
It's perfect.
I think it's perfect. Like, this is King Ghidrah. This is King Ghidorah to me. So that's my second pick. And number one, it should come as no surprise. The Spiral Studios, gigantic size, Ultimate Master Line, Monsterverse, King Ghidorah, or Monster Zero.
Wow, it's massive.
Yeah. Again, say what you will about the Monsterverse, say what you will about this Ghidorah, but like, this statue is like, even when, like, what David said, when he brings people to his room or outside people, they gravitate to a certain collectible. It's kind of
That's
hard not to gravitate to this guy because it's the biggest damn thing in the room. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It is so epic. Even when I come to my room and I see a sea of grays with the Godzillas, or the browns with the Kongs, or the silvers with the Mecha Godzilla. But when you got that big golden bastard behind me that just glows the entire room,
undeniable.
it is worth it. So yeah, those are my top three: the Resin Chef Ghidorah 72, the 25 centimeter 64 X Plus King Ghidra, and number one, the Spiral Studios Ultimate Master line of King Ghidra 2019 / Monster Zero.
Hey
And
Leslie,
yes, sir.
Space Beast would like to know how many Giddies total do you have? Do you think?
How many Ghidorahs?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's run them out right fast. Okay, I got 3 X Plus ones. I got the X Plus USA, which was a resin one. I got 2 of the 64s, like I just said. I got the Flying 68 that you see pretty much every month. I got that one. I got the 72 that I just talked about. I got the Resin Chef Mecha King Ghidra kit. That's 6. I got the GMK Ghidorah kit from Monster Mecha 28. That's 7.
Wow.
I got the Kaiser Ghidorah kit from Goro that X Plus adapted into their Final Figure line. That's 8. I have the Devil Real
All
Ghidorah.
of them.
Thank you. The Devil Real Ghidorah 2019. I have Death Ghidorah. If we want to count Death Ghidorah, I got a 25 centimeter Death Ghidorah from the Favorite Sculptors line. That's 10. I had the 25 centimeter King Ghidra 2019, and I have the Spiral Studios King Ghidra 2019. So all in all, that's what, 12? 12 Ghidorahs.
And they
So,
take up a lot of room, let me tell you that.
yeah. And
I was gonna
honestly,
say, yeah.
Honestly, I just want one more. I just want one more, and actually 2. I take that back. I want 2. I want a 91 regular
The
King
animated
Ghidra.
trilogy one, right? That's the one you want real bad.
Actually, you know what?
Pipe
Actually, you know
cleaner
what?
Ghidra.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna have that tomorrow night. I'm having spaghetti, so I'm already gonna have that. But no, the ones I want Grand King Ghidra of some kind. I want a Grand King Ghidra, and I want a 91 regular King Ghidorah. Those are the ones. And after that, that's it. Because I refuse to put anything on the floor. To me, if you put anything on the floor, that's an automatic fail, in my opinion. But yeah, but those are my Ghidorahs. I'm proud to have them. I'm proud to have people that that build model kits like David and Marcellus, doing for me, because I can't do. Or Greg, because he's actually working on a Ghidorah project for me as well. I'm more on that in a few months. But yeah, as you've heard here, ladies and gentlemen, for the past 2 or 3 hours, we love King Ghidorah, and we want to honor him involving his 60th anniversary. And that's pretty much going to do it for this supplemental video. Yes, want to thank everybody for being here. All 31 people that are still here. Wow, thank you so
Wow.
much.
Thank you.
31 people, you know. And before we get up out of here, I know, Jonathan, don't we have a video about all the people that submitted for the KG week? So let's fire it up, and then we'll do our closing outro.
Jonathan, that was
Well
awesome.
done.
Well done.
Well done to everybody who submitted too. I mean, a lot of great photos to choose from. There was a lot of you were keeping, like, you kept sending stuff in today, and I was like, I'd already put it together. I was like, oh man, there's so many other photos. Like, we just love seeing everyone participate in these awesome hashtags. David, that was a great idea for the hashtag, and we definitely want to do more of these in the future. So whenever we have a hashtag, we want everyone in the group to be participating, and you all showed out this one, let me tell you.
For sure.
So bravo to you. Bravo to our wonderful family, our Camely.
Absolutely.
That was awesome, guys.
Yeah. So again, thank you for everybody for being here. Thank you to Kyle and David and Jonathan. Thank you so much, for answering my request for you to be up here. I really do appreciate it. Just a couple housekeeping notes. Our next episode, our final episode of Collect All Monsters, as far as like our monthly show, is going down 2 weeks from today, December 14th.
For the year.
For the year.
Yeah. I'm sorry. For the year. For the year.
I was
year.
People are like, what?
Let's start crying.
No, for the year, December 14th, 2024, and it's going to be an interesting show. Ironically, this show's been kind of like a lead into that. We're going to give honor to the recent passing of awesome suit maker and monster designer Keizo Murase. And ironically, he was the one that originally designed King Ghidrah, like the first King Ghidrah, and many other monsters that we'll talk about on that show. So we'll hopefully to see you there again on our last episode of Collect All Monsters on December 14th, 2024. And then even though it's going to be the last show, trust me, we got so many shows planned for 2025 and beyond. So much stuff, commentaries, discussions, comparison videos. Trust me, the train ain't stopping anytime soon, But in the meantime, won't you watch your favorite King Ghidorah film tonight, whether it's Monster Zero, 91, GMK, 2019, Rebirth of Mothra 3, Rebirth of Mothra 1, it doesn't matter. Honor our favorite three-headed space dragon, the one and the only King Ghidrah. Happy anniversary, big guy.
I agree.
So long.
I would say this has been such an epic stream. We're at the 3-hour mark. So until next time,
are we really?
Our planet may be doomed, our Earth devastated, the monsters are in revolt, and civilization is in chaos. We must unite and collect
all Ghidrah
monsters.
Yes, or Ghidrah.